I mean, she can also mute it too. Just go ahead.
Then you give her back.
Nope, just leave it.
And we'll send that URL to,
To Chris.
yeah, Chris Martinez.
Yep.
Oh, do I need to send it or y'all?
We'll send it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Or you got the link or?
I'll show you how to grab it.
It's in the Zoom chat and back up.
Oh, we didn't give it to me.
It's in the chat.
It didn't go?
Well, it's Teams. I'm gonna go into the Zoom chat.
Yeah, just copy it from the Zoom chat to the Teams chat.
Okay, yeah.
You can either send it to me or Chris Martinez.
You guys should be good. Just choose a message if anything goes pear-shaped. Have fun, guys.
Thank you.
You mean to leave this cracked or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We might be starting a few minutes late this morning. We have a few folks who haven't joined us in person yet, and I'm starting to think there might be a parking issue involved. So we're gonna try to find them, but sit tight and we'll go as quickly as we can. Okay. Remember anything, right?
No, I checked email. The only person that. The only person that emailed me was Cassandra, but everybody else, no, I haven't gotten anything else.
I'm guessing it is. I'm guessing it's our unique parking arrangement. Just probably throw people for a loop a little bit. So
Okay,
let me see. Let me go check them again.
okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
I'm like, where's Richard? I haven't had a call yet, so I think we're still missing a couple more. But everybody's walking next door.
Oh.
To Barbara George.
Everyone thinks it's next door like you.
Well, at least I don't feel stupid.
And your name, the name flags over here, describe yours and then decide where you want to live. It's not see any.
Parking situation.
I'm gonna sign in and then I have y'all's name.
You more folks.
I know, I'm.
Love it.
Sorry, Renee.
I think wherever you want.
These actually are, like Lisa, Michelle, you said Michelle.
Yes, these are the ones, yeah, Michelle, I think she said they're on the first, the morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Doing great. Okay.
A squeeze. Force me to handle. He might have to like do like a half speed.
That could be.
Right, who else were we expecting in person?
Shannon, Michelle. I did. Yeah. Oh, there I go. Okay. Sorry. That's fine. You know what I mean?
You're the only presenter, correct? Renee?
There's one other presenter, but she's throwing these. Is that too?
There's no one on that is actually.
I think that's hard for me to check because I'm.
I see.
Gotta do, but we'll probably get to.
Yeah, this is, we put 5 minutes to all this stuff.
Oh,
It
okay.
rarely takes 5 minutes to do this. Sounds good. We should go very quickly.
So it looks like just 3 people.
Feel free to get food. I already told you. Like,
Yes, please people eat.
we had it.
Not like last time. Yeah.
Andy, we have food.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Front donuts.
Thank you.
See.
Good stuff.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. I wanted to mention, it looks like some people are trying to join the Teams link in the meeting rather than the Zoom. So I'm not sure if anyone has access to log in to let people
Right.
know that it's a Zoom link.
Minutes and then start.
Right, first, second.
Compare.
Let's Lisa and Michelle find their way to us.
Yeah.
Right, that big is.
And then I think they're supposed to call.
But they haven't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we are making it work.
Can you pull up the Wi-Fi stuff?
I think I looked at ours. Yeah, but one of the things that's hurting is that we're not doing like school most of it. Cause there's no like class. It's cheating.
Yeah.
Schoolers.
You guys need the Wi-Fi, there's the password.
You get it?
I got on you.
I just want to know whose ingenious idea was this?
I know, Maestro. Do you need help? Okay.
You just have to get up.
Getting down's not the problem. Yes.
Oh, I'm good. Jesus.
It probably makes sense to go ahead and start, so we're not.
You want to go ahead and start and then we'll go ahead.
All right, hello, everyone. The meeting's now called to order. Welcome to the Financial Aid Advisory Committee meeting. I'm Dr. Scott Lipinski. I'm Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Management and Director of Financial Aid at UT Permian Basin. I'm the current chair of the advisory committee, and I'd like to welcome all the current members on the committee and those that are watching the live stream on YouTube. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. A few reminders of meeting etiquette. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. The chair will establish a quorum through roll call. Motions will be voted on by roll call. Each member should identify themselves prior to speaking for the record. Be sure to use the raise hand feature to be recognized by the chair before speaking if you're online, and just raise your hand if you're in person. Do not use the chat function to address a question. Questions and comments should be stated for the record. We'll now get started with roll call. Tanya Richardson Dean,
Here.
Cecilia Jones,
Here.
Liz Smalley.
Yeah.
Debbie Richmond,
Here.
Heather Fountain.
Here.
Ellie Steelman,
Here.
Lisa Martin. Angie Harmon,
Here.
Hero, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay.
Michelle Hill. Rebecca Doma,
Here.
Jackie Kelly,
Here.
Erica Ramos. Sandra Moore,
Here.
Mary Escobar. Shannon Crossland,
Here.
Scott. Forgot.
Bowie, Scott Bowie.
He just got admitted.
Okay. Letitia Addison. Farzana. Lillian Rodriguez,
Here.
Melissa Jones. Beth Tolan,
Here.
all right, the next agenda item is approval of the March 26th meeting minutes. Hopefully you all had a chance to review the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Are there any questions or corrections that need to be made? If there are none, then we'll consider the minutes approved. We'll now move on to agenda item number 3, update prior business from Chris.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all again. Happy summer. I'm sure someone here on this committee gets a break. Maybe not many of you. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention, kind of following up on prior meetings, or a couple of just smaller items to remind you all. First, I wanted to welcome Lillian Rodriguez to the committee. She's our new student rep on the committee. Lillian, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, thank you so much. As he said, my name is Lillian Rodriguez. I go to school at Sam Houston State University. I'm a criminal justice major as well as a psychology major. I hope to work with legislation to work on laws that we have that can better help kids from an unfortunate background be able to go in life and not have to just end up in jail. So I'm excited to be part of this committee. I know I can help. I'm part of the Texas I'm part of the Texas Leadership Scholar Program, so I was well connected with it. So I'm very excited. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Welcome and great to have you. Couple other items I wanted to mention is this is our annual meeting where we're supposed to select the next vice chair for the committee. That has historically not been a particularly competitive election, but it could be. So I think what we'll do is, please be thinking about whether you'd like to be the next vice chair on this committee. And then I think we have an item near the end of the agenda. Am I right about that, Renee? Where we'll select someone, and then if nobody steps up, then it gets really hairy. But we'll figure that out when we get there. But be thinking about that. I think it's, from the vice chair's perspective, I think with the way the committee has historically operated is the vice chair is kind of, the chair's backup. And you get a year of kind of seeing how the sausage gets made, how these meetings are put together. And then typically the vice chair becomes the chair when the chair rolls off. So that's historically how we've done that. And so if that's something that interests you, you'll have an opportunity to let us know that. And if more than one person is interested, then we will have some campaigning, I guess. The last thing I wanted to mention is fortunate. This is good news for, I think, everybody involved. Our agency has been doing a lot of review of efficiency of operations and making sure that we're doing stuff that meets our requirement, but not doing things that are unnecessary. And the determination was that all the activity reports that Renee hounds you all for after every meeting are, turns out they're a little more than we needed. So we won't have to hound you for those anymore. I know Renee is devastated, but that's so that'll be good. We'll have one less piece of paperwork for all of us to do, which I'm not gonna be sad about. And then finally, with your permission, Scott, I'd like to go ahead and move us over to agenda item 4 and introduce Andy McLaurin, who's the Assistant Commissioner for Funding and Financial Aid here at the Coordinating Board. Yes.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andy McLaurin. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Funding and Financial Aid. For background, I was previously the Assistant Commissioner of Funding and Resource Planning, but we're undergoing a restructuring at the agency. Chris and his teams have moved under funding, which is the division I oversee. In recognition of that, we've renamed our division Funding and Financial Aid. Just a quick introduction about me. I've spent most of my career in legislative agencies. I've worked for Ledge Council and LBB for about 2/3 of my career. About the other third of it, I worked as an attorney for different state agencies. I retired in 2024 and then came back into this position. Really excited to be working with you guys. I'm excited to be working with Chris. Got a lot to learn about financial aid, so I'm here for it. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks for coming in person.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, recognition of members that their terms are ending after this meeting. So the first one is Rebecca Adorno from TCU. She's been on the committee from September 2023 through June of 2026. Mary Escobar from Angelo State. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. Farzana Folati. He's a student representative and he's been on the committee from June 1st, 24 through June 30th of 26. Heather Fountain from Texas A&M. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. Michelle Hill from Alamo College District. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. Cecilia Jones from Jarvis Christian University. She's been on the committee from November 21 to June of 26. She served as vice chair, chair, and past chair. Jackie Kelly from Kilgore College. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. Erica Ramos from Farsan Juan Alamo ISD. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. And Beth Tolman from UNT. She's been on the committee from September 23 to June of 26. So thank you all for those that have served on the committee. We appreciate you taking your time to be part of the Financial Aid Advisory Committee. So the next agenda item is the recommendation on proposed nominees for the 2026 Financial Aid Advisory Committee. The first one is Sandra Bashir from Texas State Technical College. Her term will start in September 26 and end June of 29. Tanika Agason from Houston City College. Her term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Rebecca Bradley from TSU. Term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Sarah Cuellar, sorry, I'm not good with names. From Alamo College, the term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Celeste Graham from Uplift Education, the term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Casey Gross from A&M, term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Mike Kaufman from Bynum ISD, term will start September 26 and end June of 29. Emily Slipkin from TCU, term will start September 26 and end June of 29. And Beth Tolan will be back from UNT and term will start September 26 and end of June of 29. So we appreciate all those new people that will be on the Financial Aid Advisory Committee and giving their time to this committee.
And I'll just mention on that, got that those names will be submitted to the Higher Education Coordinating Board for review at the July, when they meet in late July. And so then once they okay those nominations, then we'll notify folks that they've been approved and get them all set up for the September, our next meeting in September.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 7. John Wyatt, the Senior Director from the Coordinating Board.
Good morning, everyone.
Oh, he's here.
Hey, John.
I'm here online. Good morning, John Wyatt, Senior Director for Government Relations here at the Coordinating Board. Provide a little update on where things stand in terms of the current legislative interim and the upcoming 90th session of the Texas legislature. So as you know, the legislature meets in January of every odd-numbered year. So we are about 7 months out from the beginning of their next session. And we're starting to get into that period where the members are really starting to focus on what their agenda is going to be and what kind of issues and policies they're going to want to pursue going into the session. And the primary way they're going to do that is through interim hearings. I believe we've discussed this previously, but during each legislative interim, that is the period between sessions, the Lieutenant Governor for the Senate and the Speaker for the House issue interim charges. And these are topics that they want committees to dive into during the interim, take testimony, have debate, consider options, so that they will have some recommendations potentially going into the session. So in order to get that information and have that debate, they have what are called interim hearings. And so we have several upcoming interim hearings that are going to involve the coordinating board. There's actually one going on right now. So House Public Health is having a hearing today. It's actually started at 9 o'clock and is probably going to run late into the night to discuss their interim charges. Specifically relevant to the coordinating board, Commissioner Rosser has been invited to testify on their charge regarding the Texas healthcare workforce and how our agency is engaged with and helps support making sure that we have a healthcare workforce to meet our needs in Texas. So Commissioner Rosser is going to testify regarding how we support students as well as practitioners in the field to bolster that workforce, talking about the financial aid that we provide to undergraduate and graduate students in healthcare fields, talking about the residency program grants that we provide to doctors who are in residency programs, talking about the loan repayment programs that we have that help reduce educational debt of practitioners in specific fields, such as physicians and mental health care providers. So we do anticipate that he'll probably go on late this afternoon. And if you are interested in watching that testimony, it is available through the House of Representatives website. In addition to that, there are a couple more interim hearings that we know are coming up. The House Higher Education Committee is tentatively scheduled for a hearing on July 14th. That has not been officially posted, but that's what we understand. The House Higher Education Committee has a number of charges that they're looking at. But particularly relevant to this group is that one of their charges is on post-secondary education affordability. And as part of that charge, they want to evaluate our state financial aid programs to determine, are they being effectively targeted? Are they correctly structured to promote student success and to meet our workforce needs? So really a kind of a review of all the different elements of affordability. And again, we anticipate that the agency will be front and center in providing testimony, data, feedback, and analysis to the committee regarding that charge. So July 14th is the first hearing. It's almost certain that there are going to be additional hearings of the House Higher Education Committee over the course of the summer and potentially the early fall. And then also the Senate Higher Education Committee is going to be having hearings on July 28th and July 29th. That has posted, so that is official. You may recall that during the last legislative session, the Higher Education Committee was actually combined with the Public Education Committee. So there was no separate Higher Education Committee during the last session of the legislature. But the Lieutenant Governor restructured that so that now there is a freestanding Senate Higher Education Committee. And that committee is being chaired by Senator Paul Bettencourt. So they will have their hearings on July 28th and 29th. They have actually a relatively short list of interim charges. They've been charged to look at the community college finance structure, to evaluate the permanent university fund, to look at the implementation of a couple of bills from last session, SB 37 and HB 127. So we do anticipate that they should knock out all of their interim charges over the course of those hearings on the 28th and the 29th. So nothing on their list specifically impacts financial aid, but anyone can ask any question that they have or raise any issues that they have in these hearings. So probably worth giving them a listen just to make sure that you're in the loop. Other than that, we are trying to gear up as an agency for the session, make sure we are prepared to provide the members of the legislature with the information they need to answer their questions, to provide feedback on issues that they've raised and that they may wish to pursue, that we have all of our structure in place to support legislative decision makers so that they can make the best decisions for higher education during the session. So that's what I have right now, but I would be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for John? If not, thanks, John. We appreciate the update as always.
Y'all have a great day.
You too. All right, agenda item number 8.
I believe Allison's on yet. So wanna
Running
go-
a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll skip agenda item number 8, move on to agenda item number 9 then. Update on financial aid operations subcommittee from Ben Tolan.
Good morning. Let's see, I have some notes I wrote down here really quickly, so let me pull that up. Let's see, the Financial Aid Operations Subcommittee, we met on May 28th for an hour and a half. We reviewed recent and upcoming SFAP announcements, recent policy updates, and upcoming rule activity. The committee then discussed questions regarding the FAAC cycle 2, student eligibility, some program-specific questions, and then setting our next meeting. Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay. Thank you, everyone.
I think Allison's on now.
All right, thanks, Beth. Okay, all right, we'll move back to agenda item number 8, a presentation from Trellis from Allison Cornett, who's the Director of Research at Trellis Strategies.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So thank you for the opportunity to join you all virtually today. I'm going to be sharing some findings from our 2025 Student Financial Wellness Survey with a focus on our Texas undergraduate students, and then a few select findings from our survey of students who have stopped out or dropped out of college. And the goal for me today is to kind of ground us and any discussions about financial wellness, affordability, and then student persistence using our current large-scale survey data. I will have time for questions at the end, so if you have any questions for me, feel free to say those for the end, or you can hop off and we can discuss while the slides are up. So in case you don't know us, Charlie Strategies is a nonprofit research and technical assistance firm with more than 40 years of experience supporting education and workforce systems. Since we opened our survey shop in 2018, we have surveyed more than 9 million students across the country, and our work really focuses on student success, financial wellness, basic needs, and institutional effectiveness, partnering with institutions, systems, and policymakers to translate student data into actionable insights. So the Student Financial Wellness Survey, or the SFWS, is our kind of flagship self-reported online survey of post-secondary students. It captures the financial well-being, basic needs security, mental health, and other indicators that we know are tied to student persistence and success. We see institutions use these results to raise money, develop programs, and ensure a culture of caring is being built for their students. So every year we publish an aggregate report and infographic that summarizes our national and state trends. These resources are publicly available through our research hub and are commonly used for benchmarking and policy discussions, and you can get the reports by using these QR codes or navigating to our research hub on our website. So before I get into the kind of data here, I wanted to chat through how many students we actually had participate in the survey last year. So for Texas students only, these findings will reflect responses from just over 19,000 students attending 42 Texas institutions. That includes about 22-year schools and 24-year schools, so we have a pretty good even split. The total Texas population exceeded 353,000 students, and we were able to get an 82% completion rate. So of the students that started the survey, 82% finished. So that reflects some really strong engagement. We're really excited to see that. And then we just want to note that all the data we'll be talking about today reflects fall 2025 undergraduate enrollment at those Texas schools. So these are Texas only students we'll be checking in on. So first I'll get started with just touching base on some student wellness, focusing on basic needs and security and mental health. So in terms of basic needs, we saw that 48%, nearly half, of Texas undergraduates who took the survey were food insecure within 30 days prior to taking the survey. And that was really split evenly between low and very low food security. And these rates were remarkably consistent across both the 2-year and 4-year sectors, signaling that this isn't a trend among just one sector of higher education. It's really something that students at both 2- and 4-year colleges are dealing with. We also saw 37% report housing insecurity, including difficulty paying their rent, mortgage, or utilities, and that can risk eviction or negative credit reports. And then we also saw 12% had a positive screen for homelessness, and that can include couch surfing or temporarily staying with a friend or relative, or lacking stable housing or not having a home. And again, we saw these rates relatively consistent across both the 2- and 4-year sectors. So I just want to highlight that. And then we also collect student quotes from the survey. And I always like to conclude some of these to just help us really contextualize the data. And we saw that students described near homelessness, food insecurity, medical debt, and an overall feeling of lack of support. And in particular, former foster youth stood out here are students who have experienced foster care, with more than 4 in 5 reporting at least one form of basic needs insecurity, like the student we have featured on this slide that said that they had nowhere to turn when they aged out of foster care. They had dropped out of their first college program because they had no support system. We also check in on student mental health. So we saw that 44% of Texas undergraduates had a positive screen for symptoms of generalized anxiety disorder, which is the most common mental health concern among college students. We also saw nearly a third had a positive screening for major depressive disorder, which is a serious mental health condition. And we also saw that students were regularly experiencing loneliness at their Texas colleges and universities. More than nearly three in five students, 58%, said that they regularly feel lonely. 11% say that they feel lonely always, and 47% said that they feel lonely sometimes. And we also saw that only 15% of these students said that they never feel lonely. So now I'm going to turn more directly into some findings from financial security and how these students are paying for college. So we saw that students reported using an average of 3 total funding sources, and that was most commonly current income, as we can see over here in the employment and savings piece. We also saw that students were kind of relying on credit cards. So among our Texas respondents, 16% reported using credit cards to pay for college-related expenses. And then these other categories kind of shape out how we expect, with relatively high utilization of scholarships and Pell Grants, other grants, and then also student loans. We also kind of like to slice the data in a way so we can see who is only relying on personal savings and current wages to pay for school. And not surprisingly, only 4% of our Texas students were able to only rely on personal savings and their current employment to pay for college, while 96% depended on a combination of that aid, employment, family support, or credit cards and other sources of debt. And just some more student voices here, where we saw that students emphasized the actual cost of attendance often exceeded what their financial aid covered. And that was particularly for this student at a community college that didn't have dormitory housing, so they had to find that housing off campus. And I really just like this succinct quote from the student where they wrote, "It's incredibly difficult. Everything is so expensive, from school supplies to food and housing." So students are really feeling that kind of higher cost of living, in addition to trying to make their ends meet for their normal kind of college expenses. So we also checked in, the very first question in the survey asked them if they have experienced any financial difficulties or challenges while enrolled. Not surprisingly here again, we saw 72% reported experiencing financial difficulties while a college student. We did then do a follow-up question for those students who say yes, and ask them if they're having difficulty concentrating on their schoolwork because of their finances. And 50%, so 1 in 2 of these students, did say that this makes it more difficult to concentrate on their schoolwork. Really, again, just kind of underscoring that direct link between financial stress and academic engagement. On this slide, we kind of check in on their emergency resources and their capacity to meet an unexpected $500 expense. And again, we saw high reports of financial fragility here, with 58% of our students in Texas saying that they would struggle to come up with that amount, either in cash or credit. Again, just kind of highlighting that financial fragility. And these are the kind of decisions that we see often translating into students having to stop out of college when they're forced between an emergency expense and making their ends meet. We also check in on how many times they run out of money. So this is all self-reported data, but we did see that 73% of Texas students reported running out of money at least once since January 1st of 2025 and the time that they took the survey, which is October to November of that same year. And that included about 23% on this far right bar over here who ran out of money 8 or more times. And for these students, this is really an ongoing instability rather than those one-time emergencies that we kind of checked in on in this question. So a lot of students kind of experiencing cash flow issues, or having to rely on friends and their family or social networks to help them make ends meet when they are running out of money at this frequency. Here's another student quote where the student described college as a battle of survival, where a single emergency could cascade the student into job loss, housing loss, and ultimately withdrawal from school. And we know, right, I think that this is a common situation. The 36% of students who start college don't finish. And so unfortunately, this is something that we do see students running into. And I just wanted to highlight this quote because I think it's particularly powerful. Okay, so in our next section, I'm going to kind of examine how students use credit and accumulate consumer debt to manage the cash flow gaps that we were discussing in the previous section. So we check in with students and just kind of see how they're feeling about their debt. And it's not surprising given the other kind of financial wellness areas that we've been touching in on, that 36% of our Texas students agreed or strongly agreed that their total debt is manageable, but 24% disagreed or strongly disagreed. And then we also saw about 1 in 5 report that they did not have any debt. So the remainder of these students over here are all managing some combination of educational and consumer debt, with nearly a quarter saying that that debt does not feel manageable. For years, we've been checking in, since we started the survey in 2018, we've been checking in on credit card use, which by itself is not an inherently financial risky product, but it can be if you're not paying off the balances, making timely payments. And so we did see 54% of our Texas respondents report using a credit card during 2025. But we also saw students reporting using buy now, pay later services at high rates. 26% of our Texas students have used buy now, pay later services in that same time frame, so since January 1st of 2025. And that is considerably higher than the national average, which ranges about 15% of American adults are using buy now, pay later services as of 2024. And so I think this is something that we really want to pay attention to as these kind of services like PayPal Credit, Klarna, Affirm kind of pop up, I think, in unexpected ways when students are making purchases. So we check in on their credit card behaviors and repayment behaviors. So among those students who are paying their credit cards, 73% of Texas respondents say that they pay their bill on time, but only 42% over here are paying their balance in full each month. And then this is an area where we do see differences by sector, where we saw 2-year students were less likely to pay their full balance than our 4-year respondents. And another student quote here that really just illustrates how quickly credit card debt can accumulate for students who are trying to stay enrolled while making their ends meet. In our next section, we're going to check in on students who work. We know that employment is often necessary for students, but it can compete directly with academic time and attention to academics. Among our Texas students, 63% indicated that they work for pay while in college. Of these students, we saw that 79% had one job, so the majority of these students, almost 4 in 5. 18% indicated that they held 2 jobs, and 3% had more than 2 jobs. And this was more common among 4-year respondents, where they're also more likely to be working part-time, while our 2-year respondents are more likely to be working full-time at one job. And another student quote here, where a student described the expense of college and the price of living being so expensive that they have to work more than 2 jobs just to scrape by. So we also check in for the students who work. We ask them if they identify as a student who works or a worker who goes to school, and this can have really big implications for how they prioritize their time, if they're going to be part-time, full-time, if they're going to have to make decisions around a conflicting job or work schedule with their school schedule. And we saw that among those Texas students who worked, 35% consider themselves workers who go to school rather than students who work, with that other 65% identifying as students who work. This was more common in the 2-year sector, where nearly half of those 2-year students with jobs saw themselves as workers first, compared to just a quarter of those four-year students. And then among those working students, again, we're checking in here on how many hours they spend working for pay in a typical 7-day week. And we saw that, not surprisingly, about a quarter are spending less than 20 hours. But I really want to pay attention to this group over here, where a third are spending 40 or more hours on work a week. And then they're also describing here if their job interferes with their ability to engage in social events or extracurricular activities at their school. And nearly 1 in 2, 48%, said that their job does interfere with their ability to kind of fully engage in that college experience. And another student quote here where they're describing how that full-time work really does crowd out their ability to participate in those extracurriculars, campus engagement, but also time for rest, even as a part-time student. We know that many students, especially here in Texas, are supporting children or other dependents, and that student parents are highly motivated, but can face significant structural barriers when trying to access and complete higher education. So in the 2025 survey, we saw that 15% of our Texas undergraduates reported being parents or caregivers to at least one dependent. And this was higher among our 2-year students at about 25% than our 4-year students at about 10%. And some more student voice quotes here where students really emphasize that access to childcare is essential for their ability to stay enrolled. And we also see that the student above is a 33-year-old, works a full-time job, has 3 kids, is going to school, and also still has to work overtime to cover the bills. The second student down here, just really trying to get across the point that the childcare, if there's childcare on campus available, that there will be opportunity for her to study and work in addition to going to school. So for these parenting students or students who are caregiving, we also checked in with this hypothetical question on if they were to lose access to their current childcare arrangements, basically what would happen? And we saw that 31% said that they would need to take fewer classes or drop their classes. Over a quarter of our Texas parenting students said that they would be less likely to enroll in future semesters. Nearly 2 in 5 said that they would have less time for studying and focusing on those academics and being academically successful. Students also reported that they would be likely to get worse grades at 29%. And just, under 1 in 5 here, 18% said that they would consider bringing their children to classes. So despite all these challenges that I just covered, we do know that the belief and value of education among these students remains strong. And we check in with them to see how they feel about the value of college and their return on investment. And really, really happy to see these numbers. So 76% of our Texas undergraduates agree that the cost of college is a good investment. And 85% agreed or strongly agreed that their college degree will provide them with a higher quality of life. And again, another student quote here to put this into context for us, where a student wrote, "It's hard, but worth it. Everything you do during your college career has lasting impacts on your future, and it's a path to a better life, not just for you, but for everyone around you." And all these student quotes that I'm sharing today aren't from kind of specific targeted questions. They are from a kind of catch-all question that we have at the end of the survey that asks them, what does the world need to know about being a college student right now? And so these are all just like free-form questions or free-form answers that students are giving us. And so I think that really, just like to highlight that because I think it makes it a little bit more impactful what they're choosing to share with us. And then this is just a brief overview of our timeline to participate in the upcoming survey. Participation is always free. and includes benchmarking reports, infographics, and de-identified data files where you can do your own analysis. So if you or your institution or you know any institutions that are interested in participating, you can contact us using the QR code on this slide or surveys@trellisstrategies.org. And I think I saw someone unmuted. Is there a question? Okay, and then I just have a few brief slides to kind of highlight our Some College No Credential survey. So the Student Financial Wellness Survey does a really good job of showing us the pressures that students face while they're enrolled. And the FAAC survey is designed to help us understand what happens after students stop out. So we know from NCES and the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center that more than 1 in 3 undergraduates do not finish their degrees, and that more than 43 million Americans have some college but no credential. And while enrollment trends are showing positive developments, only 2.7% of working age students with some college no credential re-enrolled in the 2023-2024 academic year. So there's a lot of work to do here. And we really wanted to check in with these students and learn a little bit more in their words why they are no longer enrolled and what strategies institutions can use to help re-enroll these students and get them to come back and finish their degrees. So we ended up with a cohort of over 50 schools and captured responses from 3,000 former students who last attended these institutions. And when we asked students their reasons for leaving their most recent institution, those top reasons included personal financial issues. That really corresponds to what we're seeing in the survey, where most students, almost 1 in 5, can't afford an emergency expense. 23% are running out of money 8 or more times in a calendar year. So not surprising, but really seeing students report a lack of funds, bills, medical debt, kind of impeding their college journey here. We also saw family and personal reasons play a role, where they might have to stop out or drop out to be a caregiver, or maybe they're pregnant or parenting, or there's personal circumstances playing a role there. That can include poor emotional or mental health, or the inability to meet their basic needs, like we saw earlier in the presentation. We also saw 27% of these students indicate that their employment had played a factor in their decision to leave their previous institution. And that, again, kind of goes back to that point we were making about conflicting work and school schedules, needing to work to make ends meet, or just thinking that there might not be any impact, positive impact of a degree on their career. We also saw a quarter of these students reflect that the cost of attendance or tuition was an issue for them, or financial aid reasons. So that can include an insufficient financial aid package as perceived by the student, issues with financial aid delivery, or just not being able to afford the cost of attendance. And then lastly here, we saw 24% indicate health reasons contributing to their decision to stop out, and that can include poor mental health, physical health, or needing to care for a family member with kind of poor health or health needs. Okay. So those are all the slides I wanted to cover. I really just wanted to kind of give you all a preview of our Student Financial Wellness Survey results for just our Texas students, but also checking in on those former students who participated in the SCNC survey. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take those now, and I can stop sharing my screen.
Allison, will you share this slide deck with us?
Absolutely. I will share that
Okay.
with Chris and the team as soon as I hop off here.
All right, good. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get that out to everybody once we're done today, so you all can peruse.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Allison?
Allison, I have a question. How is Sandra Moore from the ISDs here? How is this survey distributed, and is there a way to see which institutions participate?
Yeah, absolutely. So we distribute the survey online. So what we partner with the institution, and then the institution would provide us with the contact information for the student through a secure file transfer system. We load that into our instance of Qualtrics, our survey platform, and then we send out invitations directly to students. That lets us target students who haven't responded with targeted reminders. And then we kind of handle all the administration, reporting, analysis. And then I can provide, when I send over the slide deck, I'll also provide a copy of our aggregate report. And at the bottom, at the end of the aggregate report, there is a full list of our participating institutions. And then on our Student Financial Wellness Survey website, you can actually see every Texas institution who has ever participated. And we've had really strong participation in Texas. So we've had almost all of the 2-year colleges have participated, and a very good portion of the 4-year privates and publics as well.
Allison, a question for you. I'm from the University of Texas Medical Branch. So we do have undergraduate students, but we're primarily a graduate and professional school. Do you guys, I know this survey is targeted to undergraduates. Could it be applicable to graduate and professional students as well?
Absolutely. And we do survey graduate students at institutions' request. So if you did want to participate, we could do your undergraduate population and your graduate and professional population. And I think it's very applicable across the populations. I know as a graduate student, I struggle with my basic needs and financial security while working as a resident assistant or a research assistant. And so I do think there's a lot of commonality across both populations, and we do commonly run the survey for institutions here in Texas, including there's a few schools, Tarleton, we often do graduate and undergraduate, and then also Our Lady of the Lake, a private 4-year in San Antonio, will often do their graduate students as well. So that's something we can also do for free.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Debbie Richmond from Education is Freedom, and I was curious, and I may have missed it, so I apologize if so. Did you also ask about how many of these students that reported took out loans and are now impacted by that?
So we do check in on how many students take out loans. Let me just pull my.
I'm just thinking about the default factors and how that impacts their jobs, their housing, ability to buy a car, things like that.
Is this for the Student Financial Wellness Survey or the survey of students who have stopped out?
Well, both were impacted by cost. So, but mostly, I guess, for the dropout, ultimately.
So in the Student Financial Wellness Survey, we saw that 30% of these students had taken out loans. And then the Some College No Credentials Survey, we do kind of check in on students who said that tuition, cost of attendance, and financial aid issues had impacted their ability to stay enrolled. We do ask if they feel like they had too much loan debt, but we don't check in specifically and ask if they had taken out loans as a part of that survey.
Or impacted after they dropped out, which, are they able to pay the loans if they dropped out?
Right.
Hey, Allison, this is Chris with the coordinating board. I'm curious, you all do the financial wellness survey annually. And I know you're, getting different institutions and different student respondents every year, but I wonder, year over year, what kind of trends have you noticed, cropping up in the last couple of years that we should want to be aware of as practitioners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've been doing the survey since 2018, and I've kind of been leading it since 2020, so almost 6 years. And I think when we ran the survey in those COVID years, we checked in on HERF. If students were using HERF, saw remarkable amounts of emergency aid utilization during the pandemic, and also saw, I think, remarkably consistent through lines throughout the survey. And so, we basically year over year see that almost 1 in 2 students are experiencing food insecurity. The housing insecurity and homelessness rates remain pretty consistent. What we have seen change and what we're doing a little bit more investigation into is actually something I didn't cover in our presentation today, but we do check in with the students as well to see how willing they are to recommend their institution to another prospective student. So we kind of take that standard net promoter score that you might get when you go to HEB or Target, and it asks you, how willing are you to recommend HEB to a friend or family member on a scale of 1 to 10? We've kind of modified that to use for institutions, and we have seen that net promoter score shift downwards over time, where anything positive is good. So in 2018, when we started the survey, it was our net promoter score was about a 22 on the aggregate, and now it's a 10. And so that has kind of trended downward over time. And I think that correlates, just from my own thinking, with the kind of more broad distrust in higher education that we've seen kind of solidify over the last few years. But in terms of the financial wellness pieces, the mental health, basic needs, those have stayed really remarkably consistent from 2018 through the pandemic to now. And so I think that just really speaks to the breadth and kind of gravity of these issues that our students are dealing with.
That's interesting what you're saying about the net promoter score going down. Has the students, I saw that you had them like self-report if they thought that their higher education was a good investment, or if higher education was a good investment generally. Those numbers still seemed quite high. So I think that's interesting that students are still seeing the value, but not willing to suggest that their friends, perhaps at their institute. That's an interesting kind of dynamic.
It's really interesting. And I actually just looked at that data yesterday. We're kind of trying to do a little bit more nuanced analysis to see, what are the characteristics of these students. Since it is a voluntary self-reported survey, the characteristics change year over year. Different participation or different institutions participate. And so we are kind of trying to figure out what might be driving that lower net promoter score. But it is super interesting. And then we also, in that survey of some college credential, we also checked in on if students, we basically mirrored those questions about the belief in higher education and if completing a degree would improve their lives. And we also saw pretty high percentages there, which is really interesting because these are students who had stopped out. So of students who had stopped out, 70% agreed or strongly agreed that the college degree would provide them a higher quality of life. And asking that same question, a college degree is worth the investment, we saw 64% of students who had stopped out say that a college degree is worth the investment. And so these students, even if they've stopped out of college, are also still seeing that the value is there, but they just haven't quite been able to make that step to come back.
Allison, can you tell me what the process is for selecting the institutions that participate in these surveys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we take any institution in the United States that is interested in participating. It is free. And the first step is just to reach out to me and to my team at surveys@trellisstrategies.org. I'll also provide this information when I send it over to Chris and the team. But you reach out to us, we kind of get everything started. We have the instrument, recruitment materials, everything is ready to go. And then you review that. And then you decide once you're going to participate, you submit a 1-page letter of intent. We have a template. It basically just says, yes, my institution knows we're going to participate in this. And also kind of clarifies if you need any IRB review or institutional review board review at your institution. And then the data to participate is due, I believe, in like mid-September. And then we launch the survey in October. So there isn't any kind of selection process on our end. We take any and all institutions that are interested in participating.
Allison, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can see me, but Lisa Martin from Baylor University. I was just taking a look at the report that you guys published online, and it looked like a large percentage of the population that actually responded were in their like freshman year, I guess, or earned less than 30 credit hours. And then also the median age range was averaged at about 25 years. Can I ask a question about the working? I just wanted to know, like, is there anything that would indicate when they're answering those questions if they're working on campus or off campus employment?
We don't currently ask if they're working on campus. We do also partner with an organization called Strata Education Foundation on their State Opportunity Index survey, and we're currently wrapping up that kind of administration. Actually closes tomorrow, and we do have a good cohort of Texas schools participating in that, and we will have a Texas report that is weighted and representative of Texas. And in that survey, we do check in on if the student is working on campus, off campus, if it's connected to their degree, if they're doing any kind of like work-based learning or apprenticeship. But in the Student Financial Wellness Survey, we try to keep it a little bit more focused on the financial wellness issues. And so we don't do a deeper dive into the kind of jobs or employment there.
Okay, thank you.
What was the name of that survey?
The SC State Opportunity Index Survey. And I can provide information about that too. It's the State Opportunity Index Survey. Long survey names. Yeah. Well, this is great. Any other questions?
I'm curious about one thing. We have kind of an interesting group here. You know, we've got folks from 2-year, 4-year, public, private. We also have some folks who are on the school district side or in the nonprofit space. I'm wondering, you know, you said that I think you said the median age was 25 on the wellness survey. I wonder, you know, especially for those folks who are helping work with students coming out of high school and moving into higher ed, are you seeing any kind of different dynamics for on age lines on your wellness survey?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we do test for representation, basically of all the characteristics. So I will just share my screen real quick. So this is at the back of the financial wellness survey report, and you can see all the characteristics we have, and then the characteristics of the respondents. And you know, in terms of gender, females are always overrepresented. We do weight the results to be to reflect the participation, the institutions who are participating. But average age the institution provided us was 24.5, and then the average age of the respondent was 25.5. But we do run analysis by different age ranges. And so we do also try to check in on those more traditional FTIC students. So we run data by 18 to 24-year-olds, and then we'll also do 25 and up. We'll do more nuanced age ranges as well. But we do see some really interesting differences by age, especially in terms of like borrowing behavior. Obviously, students who are younger are more likely to rely on family or parental support. They're more likely to report that their parents are taking out student loans for them. They are less likely to rely on current employment. Younger students are also less likely to work full-time, less likely to be parents. And they also are more likely to report mental health concerns. So we see our younger students more likely to report symptoms of anxiety, depression, and also report loneliness at higher rates than their counterparts who are 25 and up.
Thank you.
Allison, Sandra Moore here from Emerald ISD again. You said the data is reported by state, correct?
We have a Texas, since we have such high participation in Texas, we do have a Texas report. I don't think that's on our website yet, but I can provide Texas only findings.
And follow up to that, is it or can it be broken down by region and institution for them to know that what kind of participation they're having by institution?
So we guarantee the institutions that their results will never be reported outside of aggregate. So what we can do is kind of report by region, but we wouldn't be able to publicly report by institution because we guarantee to the institutions that their results will only be reported in aggregate.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Allison? If not, Allison, we appreciate you providing your presentation and providing all this data and updates to us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And these were really great questions. I will kind of follow up with the slide deck, information on how to participate in the Student Financial Wellness Survey, and then a few pieces of information on these other two survey products we talked about, the Some College No Credential Survey and the State Opportunity Index Survey, which are all free. And so would love to have more Texas institutions participate. I think we are the nation's powerhouse in higher education. And so I think anything that we can do to kind of bolster our participation is great. But thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciated it.
Thanks, Allison. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Okay, our next is, we are scheduled for a 15-minute break.
Yeah.
So, we'll come back at 10:53. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I know.
I would not be able to tell you that. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna take a picture of it real fast.
Anytime I can get in front of the trellis folks, I can sit there and fire questions at them. They just have so much interesting data.
Wish they do something like who use like their full power cater to a champion.
Yeah.
Who use it to help supplement.
Yeah, oh, I think that's to me, that's a lot of where. Let's let everybody have a chat without blowing up speakers across the state.
Which direction are the restrooms?
Oh,
Yes. Here.
Get this back into.
Let that go. Let's get Tracy Gordon as one of the speakers.
Yeah, I was like, we need to know.
Oh, Tracy, Rachel, I'm sorry.
Set differently.
She's our keynote. She's gonna do a couple subjects.
Okay, okay, we're going ahead and get started again. We'll start with roll call. Tanya Richardson, Deep,
Here.
Cecilia Jones,
Here.
Leah Smalley. Debbie Richmond,
Here.
Heather Brown.
Here.
Kelly Steelman,
Here.
Lisa Martin,
Here.
Angie Harmon,
Here.
Michelle Hill. Rebecca Dornoff,
Here.
Becky Kelly,
I'm here.
Erica Ramos. Sandra Moore,
Here.
Mary Escobar. Danny Crossland,
Here.
Scott Bay,
Scott Bowie here.
sorry.
That's all right.
Letitia Addison.
Here.
Ardana Alati. Lillian Rodriguez,
Here.
Melissa Jones,
Here.
Beth Cohen. Here.
Here.
Okay, agenda item number 10 is Texas Association of Financial Aid Administrators, Melissa Jones, the president, give an update.
I can give a quick update. We finished our spring training cycle earlier the end of April. And we actually had over 500 participants across the state that participated in one of the training events. So I was really excited about that. We are still in the busyness of planning for a conference. We have secured Rachel Gordon as our keynote speaker. I'm really excited about that. So we'll hear from her this fall. Lots of committee work happening, working on maybe a training survey to kind of make sure that we're staying relevant and giving training opportunities that are needed among our institutions. So that's something coming up. We're also in the middle of our election cycle. So nominations and the ballot will be posted here probably in the next month or so, and then we'll have our elections. But yeah, lots of work going on behind the scenes right now.
Anybody have any questions for Melissa? No? Okay, Melissa, thanks for the update. You're probably here.
We can come back to her in a second.
Yeah.
I think she's finishing up another meeting.
Okay. But we can just go on to agenda item number 12, update.
Yeah.
Our discussion, rulemaking update.
Yeah, we'll do a quick rulemaking update. You know what, I wasn't. You're so used to doing this with multiple screens.
Yeah.
Share. Screen there, hopefully I did this correctly. Hopefully. Nope, I didn't do it correctly. Sorry, y'all. Oh, there it goes. Oh, I'm just slow. Well, nice talking to you all again today. Yeah, like I said, I'm Chris Willen. I'm director in the Funding and Financial Aid Division here at the Coordinating Board. We just shifted some folks around here in the last week or so, so we're all getting acquainted. I'm glad you all got a chance to hear from Andy earlier. Somebody you'll probably get to know quite a bit better over the next little while. I want to give a quick update just on our on our recent rulemaking activity. You all know us, we are always busy with rulemaking around here. And I'm sure you all welcome that in light of everything that's happening at the federal level too. But I will start by saying there are no rules for financial aid going to our July board meeting. So we all get 3 months off from the chaos. And as of right now, we're not planning to we're going to do some rulemaking in October, which I'll mention a few things here in a moment, but we're not planning to do any in the first half of next year either. So we're going to let the legislature do their thing in the first part of next year, and then we'll do some rulemaking after session to implement whatever they decide.
Thanks for not adding to our.
I'm trying really hard. Y'all were teasing me. I do know that you all have a lot going on, and there's only so much change we can handle even in this business. So anybody who's ever heard me talk about rules has seen this slide, and I will continue to always put it up here because we have moved a lot of rules around over the last couple of years. But this is our structure going forward. If you are ever in the Texas Administrative Code and you're trying to find something specific, Chapter 13 is your place for like tuition, residency, exemptions and waivers, FAST, that kind of stuff. Chapter 22 is probably where most of y'all spend your time, which is state grants, scholarships, work study. Chapter 23 is the loan repayment assistance programs. John alluded to those when he presented, but those are our like profession-specific loan repayment programs, which, some of y'all, we've talked in the past about these. We don't talk about them a lot in this committee because we're obviously, y'all are mostly institutional folks, but I do encourage you, if you have questions about those programs, to reach out to us. There are really great opportunities for students. Often folks who are coming straight out of school can take advantage of these programs. And there are significant amounts of funding available for nurses, mental health professionals, physicians, teachers. So if you need more information about those programs, we're always happy to talk about them. And then finally, Chapter 24 is where all of our loan stuff lives. Cal Forward, and of course the Armed Services Scholarship. When those scholarships turn into loans, that's where all the regulations are for those. So that's the overall structure of those rules, and that is the structure we'll be keeping going forward. Hopefully that will make it easier. I know we have a lot of general provisions and stuff like that can be a little hard to follow. So we're trying to keep these things a little bit more tidy so that it's very clear what applies to what. So with that in mind, we did just have a board meeting in April. We did quite a bit of rulemaking in April, as a matter of fact, but really I want to highlight the 3 main items that we tackled in that meeting. First was the FAST program, which some of y'all are impacted by, not all of you. We're really excited about this change to the FAST program. Nothing is changing about eligibility for FAST. Nothing is changing about, like the overall size of the program. But what we are tweaking is the funding model, how we get the funding to you. Your finance folks at your institutions who are in FAST will probably really like this because we're going to move to more of like a formula funding system where we publish projections in June. Actually, you'll see the first projections at the end of this month. And those projections will tell you exactly what we're going to pay you this year and when. Instead of this whole like constant reimbursement, we're sending data back and forth, which has proven to be logistically very challenging for both y'all and us, as it turns out. So, now that we've got CBM reporting for FAST to be up and running, we can leverage that to turn it into this formula funding style system, which we hope will will both reduce the amount of administrative legwork that's involved in the program, but also get y'all paid sooner, which is something that we've heard a lot about. Second is the Texas Grant Program. This is really the follow-up from last session. The reason why we had to do these rules a little later is because the Texas Grant rules needed to go through negotiated rulemaking, which we did that rulemaking. That committee met, I think, in October. But we did finally adopt rules here in April for the Texas Grant Program. The main takeaways from those are incorporating the homeschool or non-traditional secondary education homeschooled students into the high school pathway for Texas Grant eligibility. That was House Bill 3041. And then the main event, of course, was the priority and guarantees for top 25% students and TEOG pathway students. So there are pretty significant changes to the program allocations, which is why we had to go through negotiated rulemaking for that. And many of you, if you work at a four-year or a HRI, saw the data review went out a few weeks ago for those allocations. And I know since I've talked to several of you since then, you're all wondering where your final allocations are. The answer to that question is we did run into a few snags with a couple of institutions' data. So we are working through those issues. But we are hoping, if not the end of this week, then probably early next week is our kind of current timeline. While we're trying to get everybody's data sorted out, there were a few issues that came up. So so that's Texas Grant, and the final change is to the college access loan, our flagship loan product. This is relating to the calculation, and so starting for any loans that are any loan applications that are submitted after October 15th of this year, which is conveniently when we move into our new loan system, which Robin Fenner, my colleague, is about to come tell you about. The manageable debt calculation will be applied to students in master's degree programs as well as undergraduates. So we will be republishing a new list of manageable debt levels for everybody, broken out undergrads and master's degree students. They'll have different debt levels, obviously, because their earnings are going to be different. And then we'll also be breaking those out across all the 2-digit zip codes. So you'll have a little bit more granular view into, what those manageable debt levels are going to be for your students. But yeah, so that'll start with like I said, any loan application we receive after October 15th of this year, that'll be applied to those students. So I'll stop there. If there's any questions about anything that happened at the April board meeting, including these 3 items, or if you are really in the weeds and want to ask me about some of the more technical small stuff that we did that I'm not going to talk about right now, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have before I talk about what's coming.
I do have a question. In the certification process for those Cal loans,
Yes.
currently the student, if I'm understanding, and it's been a little while since I've certified, we have someone else doing that now, but it was that the loan would come in, it would be approved for a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then we would certify it for whatever amount they're eligible for. And then the manageable debt calculation takes place. With this new system, will that help front end some of that? Because that's where we're running into issues.
Yeah.
Students think, oh, I'm approved for this amount. And then they find out, oh, wait, I can't get that. And sometimes it's less, but sometimes they can't get it at all.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't know how much is changing. I'm going to pause on answering that because I think Robin is better equipped to answer any questions about how these systems work than I am. But what I do know is that regardless of the order of how all this happens, one thing that I do know for certain in the new system is that it will happen faster. Because this will be an automated process in our new system. Right now, everybody's being checked manually, which is not great. So I do know it'll happen faster. I don't know what order it'll happen into. That's a great question for Robin.
I've asked this question 100 times. What I have been told is that they use the SIP code to help determine the manageable debt. And so since they don't get the SIP code until we certify it, that is why it's in the order that it's in.
That's correct.
So, because the question that was asked to me was, does the student know their SIP code? And I kind of laughed and was like, no, the student sometimes doesn't even know.
Yeah, the way we get the
data. Like, yeah. So no, the student doesn't know their SIP code, but that's what they're using, and that's why it's in the order that it's in.
I think that's correct. Yeah. And that's how the wage data we pull together. It's driven by SIP code, and then now it'll also be level, right? So we'll have undergrads and masters that'll have different, manageable debt levels based on the 5-year wage after graduation. So yeah, my guess is that the answer to your question is that order is not going to change for that reason, but I think it would be great if you have questions for Robin about how the system may change on that front. She will be more equipped to answer them than I am. Did anybody else have questions about what has occurred already on the rules front?
The CBE.
The CBE. Oh, yes. You asked me about this last week. It was published yesterday.
Oh.
It didn't go out on the financial aid listserv though, because it's a tuition thing. For whatever reason, we have like a standard process for tuition stuff, and that'll go out. It went out to like our president and chancellors and CFOs and somebody else, liaisons. So it probably didn't reach you. I will forward it to you, but that number is 14,990. That's the cap on cost of attendance in those competency-based baccalaureate degree programs. That's your number.
Yes.
But yes, I'll forward that to you because normally the tuition stuff, I think, finds its way to y'all if it affects you. But this one we probably won't make a note to when we send those out. In the future, we'll also add the financial aid.
We can add it to the website.
Yeah, and we'll add it to the website.
Okay. That's where I was looking for it. I didn't want to keep bothering you, but
No.
I didn't see it there.
I remembered you had asked, and then I forgot to forward it to you. So, okay. If there aren't any other questions about April, I do want to talk a little bit about what's coming. So, little preview. None of this has been out for public comment yet, so I'm going to put a blanket note on all of this, which is all of this could change, happen differently, not happen at all, depending on how the rulemaking process plays out. But there's really two big items that we want to take to the October board meeting. There will be a number of other smaller rule changes, as you've come to expect and love. But the two big ones are first relating to the carry forward. We convened a negotiated rulemaking committee, I want to say about 6 weeks ago. I don't know if any of y'all were on it. No, Heather, you weren't, but I think Bridget was. So basically, we had done some review internally about the carry forward, and just so everybody understands what I mean, when we allocate money for financial aid programs, we're telling you, the state is just telling us, here's your X million dollars, and then we use a formula to determine, you get this much, you get this much, you get this much for your students, and you all use that to kind of generate your awarding strategies. Historically, what we've allowed for in the 2-year legislative budget cycle is if you don't use your money in the first year, you can carry it all over to the second year. And then if you don't use it in the second year, you give it back to us, and more often than not, we hand it back to the state. So what we found is there's been a recurring narrative that came up when we started looking at this from an efficiency perspective, which is, for whatever reason, a school doesn't use their full allocation in the first year, that money gets moved over to the second year, and then they have too much money in the second year and can't use it all. And then by the time it comes back to us, it's too late to get it out to anybody else and use it. And so, in an environment, candidly, where we're funding Texas grants the Texas grant funding level is set at 67.5% of eligible students. So we're already talking about a third of students who are eligible, we're not funding. So in an environment like that, it's really important for us to get every dollar out to students that we can. And so we recognize that there are reasons to carry forward money across years. If you've got known enrollment growth, or if you've got, you're expecting a drop in your allocation in the second year of the biennium and you want to level that out a little bit, whatever, there are lots of reasons. So we didn't want to eliminate this carry forward altogether, but we did want to create some limits on it so that we can make sure that those funds get to students. So this will not kick in until next biennium. So this will start at the end of fiscal year 2028 if this rule gets adopted. But basically what you would expect to see is in any of our programs that have an allocation, you can only carry forward 10% of your allocation from the first year of the biennium to the second year. Anything above 10% that's left over at the end of the first year would revert back to the coordinating board, and then we would run a supplemental allocation in that second year to disperse those funds back out to schools. Again, just in the spirit of let's get those money to students. So that's something you can expect to see. Like I said, we had a negotiated rulemaking committee on this with folks from publics, privates, 2 years, 4 years. And we did reach consensus on a rule. So I think this is something that people will feel pretty good about, and you'll have a couple years to prepare for. But do look out for this when it goes out for public comment, probably near the end of July, maybe in August, it'll go out for public comment. So I would encourage you to look at that. The second one, and there's a few folks here who will, I think, be happy and who have been in my ear about this over the last year or so, is, we know there's been issues with your students who are graduating early or who are summer starters, who you can't prorate the SAI for them, but their cost of attendance is what it is. And so they wind up, not getting the aid that they would otherwise be eligible for, even while they're maybe doing something like graduating early, which is something we would encourage, which is good for their education and their affordability. We have worked through a way in our rules to allow you all in the state programs to kind of do a workaround to prorate the SAI. You can't prorate the SAI because our rules are so tied in with the federal methodology, which says you can't prorate the SAI. But turns out there's other parts of that math equation you can prorate. And so we've found a way to, I think, get you all a tool to be able to reach those students so that when they reach their senior year and they decide to graduate early, they don't hit a roadblock and suddenly they're not eligible for that aid that they've been receiving their prior 3 years. So there'll be more to be said on this. We did talk about it pretty extensively last week with the operations subcommittee, and I really appreciated the feedback we got there. This will probably go out for public comment in, like I said, in late July or in August. And so I can't show you any text or anything yet on that, but we're hopeful that this is a tool that you all will be able to use to really make sure that you're able to, move through those situations with students where they're otherwise might not be able to get aid because of all this FAFSA simplification stuff that happened. So like I said, there will be a number of other kind of smaller changes coming in the October board meeting. And then we intend to shut rulemaking down for at least half a year to let everybody relaxed and then let the legislature do their thing. These are the two main items that I'm kind of prepared to talk about today. And if anybody has any questions about them, I'm happy to attempt to answer them.
Anybody have any questions for Chris? No? Awesome. All right. If not, we'll, thanks, Chris, for the update. If not, then we'll go back to agenda item number 11, presentation on SLMS from Robin Benner, the Assistant Commissioner of Student Financial Aid Programs from the Coordinating Board.
Yeah. I guess, I'll stand up here.
There's a podium and I put your name.
Yeah.
Just tell me when you
Unless you wanna.
I'll just tell you when to click.
Yeah, let me get your slides pulled up here.
Not this is just presentation mode, right?
Yeah.
I can't control.
Yeah, it's just the big screen, that's what it is.
I got you, Robin.
Okay. So I'm Robin Fenner. I'm now over loan operations, innovation, which is business improvement, quality control. And I am also the project oversight and contract manager for our new student loan management system. So I'm here to tell you all about that, and hopefully you'll be excited after you learn about it. We're really excited to be doing this project. It's a huge initiative. So before I get into it, just so y'all know, it's very cross-agency, lots of involvement from our IT group and our financial services group, and everyone in the student financial aid programs area has been heavily involved in this project. And go ahead, Chris. So the agenda, we're going to talk about the SLMS, which is a lot of, I'll talk to you about the functionality of it and who we're using for the system, what to expect, which I'm hoping that will be meaningful to you. It's very short. And then timeline also. So when we're expecting to go live and where we are right now with the project. So about the new SLMS, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So it's
two systems really. We're using Campus Store for originations, which I imagine some of y'all have heard of Campus Store. And we're using FAAC, which is the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency, for the servicing aspect of it. And their system is called Compass. FAAC is our contractor. Campus Store is a subcontractor to them. So we are just contracting with FAAC agency to agency for the system. But there's a lot to it. Like there's a lot of pieces and parts. And I actually took one of their slides and cut probably half the pictures and text out of it because there's a lot to it. There's a lot of system information that I'm not going over. But one of the things that we're super excited about is both originations and servicing will have a portal, both for borrowers and for institutions. We have HelmNet now, but the portals in Campus Store, and Compass are quite robust and have a lot more functionality than we do right now with HelmNet. So we're going to go into that. I'm not going to talk about it here, but we're very excited and we think it's going to make y'all very happy. So just a little bit more Campus Store. The borrower will go in there to apply. Y'all will go in there to certify, and then our originations team will verify eligibility, do manageable debt, all the things that they do now with loan limits, and make sure the borrower is eligible per the program guides before they approve the loan. And then on the disbursement side, once the loan's approved, it's been through everything with Campus Store, they'll initiate the disbursement. And once they disperse, the loan kind of as a package goes over to Compass for servicing. Multiple dispersed loans will stay in Compass and that. So they'll do all the Campus Store. Gosh, I got to quit that. Campus Store will do all the dispersing. And then when the second disbursement goes for that loan, that'll also pass over to Compass for servicing. And then the servicing system also has portals. So right now y'all just have one portal for HelmNet. In the new system, you'll have a portal for Campus Store and a portal for Compass. They'll be different websites. So that's a little change management there, but you'll use them, I think, in vastly different ways. So hopefully that will be kind of intuitive. But within the Compass system for servicing, we'll do all the same servicing things we do now, but we'll have some new functionality that, again, we're super excited about. There's expanded online payment functionality with Compass. They already had some things built in that we had to do customizations or do manually. So we're really hoping it's going to cut back on our mail-in and just kind of strange payments, some of the strange payments we get, like certified checks and things like that. We'll still get some things. We're not telling anyone they can't pay a loan in any way that they want to pay the loan. We're always doing that. But we're really hoping to drive the online payments. It helps with security and reconciliation and quickness of application to their loan and all that good stuff. And then the other things we have that are new are our comms portal, which Leah knows a lot about, so maybe she can answer some questions if y'all have any there. But we've always had to do coding changes whenever we change our letters in Helms. And this will give us full control. We have a communications portal where all our letters, notices, anything can go in that communications portal and we can change it as needed. So if a program, changes or interest rates change, we can go right there and do it all ourselves and it's ready instantly. So that's really great news for us internally. It'll save a lot of time and efficiency and not having to wait for codes to be moved from UAT to production and all that good stuff. We'll also have a data warehouse. So we do not have a data warehouse now. We have an extract from Helms that we do a lot of reporting on, but this data warehouse will be much more robust. So we'll have all kinds of reporting functionality. The Compass side really leans into our operational processing efficiencies and workflows and just having a lot more capabilities there, but there are things for the borrowers as well. On both portals, the borrowers can get in and check status anytime, 24/7. They're all available all the time. And on the Compass portal, I'm getting into functionality. They can upload and download documents to do lots of things there. So I will talk more about functionality later. But you'll see their support systems. These are actually distinct kind of modules within each software package. So Campus Store, again, they have applications, eligibility, and decisioning. for Compass, there's payments, there's regular loan servicing, there's a call center, which is an IVR, integrated voice response dialer, and then our communications portal and the data warehouse. And that's just a few. There are other things, but probably not so meaningful to you. And then we have interfaces across both systems. Both systems talk to credit bureaus. I think the NSLDS call out is mostly from Compass. eOscar and Clearinghouse are Compass. Texas.gov will be Compass because that's where borrowers make online payments. But both will talk to CAPS and USAS, which are our statewide financial systems. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. So I want to dig in a little bit more to the Compass Door system. Again, it's Campus Door. The vendor's name is Tuition Source. The vendor's name is Campus Door. The product is software products Tuition Source, and this is version 5 of Tuition Source that we're going to be using. Again, this is where the borrower will go in to originate their loan. They will apply. They can upload documents. They can check their status. They can get questions answered to a certain extent when the borrower's in the Campus Door side doing their application. If they have questions and need to talk to someone, they will call our financial aid services team, kind of the same as they do now. If you're a school institution, you can go in and view the application status of the borrowers who are allocated to your school or they've indicated that they are going to go to your school. You will certify the loan details there and be able to manage disbursements, meaning you can tell in Campus Door whether the loan's been disbursed or partially disbursed or whatever. And then for THECB staff, obviously we can access the account, process their application, do the credit verification, and it will also do the manageable debt calculation, which I didn't put there. So these are just a few more features of Campus Door on the origination side. All the things that the borrowers can do. One of the things we're excited about is e-sign. We will be really reducing snail mail with these two applications. We don't anticipate doing a lot of mail at all unless the borrower does not opt into electronic, because of course they have to say that it's okay with them to communicate with them electronically anytime you have like financial documents and PII and all that. So we're hoping they'll all opt in. I mean, I think borrowers nowadays, they want to work on their tablets, their mobile phone, and they can do that with the system. They can upload files. They can get tax documents, of course. They can manage their profiles and there's FAQs built into the system. So if they have questions, most often they're probably going to be able to find an answer online. And then if not, they can call. And then for schools, you can look up program rules. You can get updates to the borrower's account so that you know when they're getting information. So if they come to you with a question, you could go into Campus Door and see where they are with their application. You can see the disbursement data as I mentioned. They'll be reporting for you. And then obviously the whole result of that is that you can track their loan applications status from start to finish. Okay, then we're going to talk about Compass. So Compass is on the loan servicing side. So this covers all of the aspects of loan servicing from repayment schedules to borrowers paying to if they need a deferment or they're into collections or judgment if they default, unfortunately. The exciting things are the borrower portal and the automated notifications. We don't have any of that now. Nothing is really workflow driven. Nothing like pushes to the borrower automatically. We are pretty much letter based right now. So the borrower can log in and get account information. They can upload documents there as well. So for instance, if they want a deferment and they have to upload, their school transcript or something like that, their schedule, they can do that in the portal now. They can get updates on their loan status, and of course all their repayment details will be there, interest rates and terms and all that good stuff. For the institution, you can go into verify enrollment. You can look at the borrower's loan status and their history. And then for staff, obviously, this is where we're going to be spending a lot of our time on this end for servicing. So our customer support will start here. We'll have the same auto dialer functionality kind of that we do now, where we send out files to our dialer to automatically call borrowers and remind them that they need to pay. Or if something happens, it'll send a file out to the dialer, if they're delinquent. There's a dialer file that goes out to call those borrowers that are delinquent. And then there's lots of reporting and lots of correspondence. And again, all of this is electronic, and we're really trying to focus on that. So we're really hopeful that the borrowers aren't going to want paper. And there's a cost to paper too, you know, it's just not just the time, it's a cost. Other Compass features, for payment processing, the borrowers can go online and pay via ACH. They can do their recurring ACH and get an interest rate deduction as they can now. They can do a one-time ACH payment if they don't want to do recurring, and they can pay via credit card, all of those through the Compass portal. If they pay via credit card, they get sent to texas.gov to the SnapPay online payment service that the state of Texas runs. And that's a requirement. You know, we don't want to keep their credit card data, neither does FIA. So that all goes through the Texas portal. And it's just an automatic redirect out to the texas.gov site, and it's sent back and it's fully paid. To your direct debit, those are files from outside financial institutions that get sent to FIA and Compass, or they can do third-party bill payment. Like if you pay through your bank, I think, yeah. So if I have a bank account and I go online into my bank and I say pay my loan, you know, it typically sends either ACH or a check to whoever that is. So that's what third-party bill payment is. And then we'll still do checks by mail. Again, really hoping that reduces. We do get a significant volume of checks by mail right now. Back one. Sorry, that's okay. And then loan activity, this is actually our operational staff, and all the things that we can do. We can also upload and download documents, look at their account status. We do all their support online, send them electronic notifications. So if something's going on with a specific borrower, while there's not chat, like we can go into that borrower and actually send them a specific document or a specific email through the portal. So, you know, we used to have to kind of download things, put them in Laserfish, and then they would do manual emails, or we'd do Gov deliveries to borrowers, and that we won't do Gov deliveries to borrowers at all anymore. And repayment schedule, of course, interest rate changes, all the typical servicing things, and their 1098 tax reporting for the interest they paid. Okay. So what to expect? So this is kind of what we've got in the works for change management. Change management, right in the middle of my word cloud. So this is another thing Leah's team is working on in collaboration with the other teams. We have a lot of things planned that will happen over the next few months. You know, I know they've been talking already at some of the TASFA trainings, and we'll keep talking to y'all a lot. I mean, I would super appreciate knowing like what y'all are most interested, what you want to hear more about. We have ideas, of course, but always knowing what's meaningful to you is important. We'll also have guides for borrowers, FAQs for borrowers and for institutions. But these are all the things that Leah's team is planning to do. The cutover plans and blackout dates are kind of a separate category, and we're working on those with our vendor right now, as well as the operational teams. But you know, when we switch over systems, that's always a risky period. There's always things in flight, and you'll see on the next slide, we're planning to go live in October. It'll be late October. And while that's outside of busy season, there will still be loans that are partially dispersed in homes that will have to convert over to Campus Store and finish their disbursement there. There'll be a time when we need to stop processing altogether so that we can have a clean cut over to the new system. We don't want like borrower payments to be in flight and still be processed. They need to be completely cleared and fulfilled and applied to their loan. And so I imagine we'll have probably about a week, maybe two, but I don't think it needs to be that long. But again, we're still kind of brainstorming. It's not set yet. But there'll be a period of time when no one can get into Helms or HelmNet. It'll be locked down so that we can cut over. And we're trying to do that at a time that, you know, minimizes the impact on y'all of a slower time of the year when, you know, the first disbursements for the fall's done and nobody really needs to do anything in the system for a bit. I did kind of put there at the bottom of the slide, sorry, Chris, that what the new website will be, backspace. There you go. So the new website is that access.loans.highered.texas.gov, and it's a mouthful. So it'll be something you'll want to bookmark once it's live. If you go to that now. It won't go anywhere. It'll tell you it's a bad site, but it is already reserved. Emails from us, from the system will come from loans.highered.texas.gov, but the portal accesses this full link. Okay, now you can go to the timeline. So this is just closing up, kind of give you all a timeline of where we've been and what we're doing. We started the project in December. We did discovery maybe a little bit into March, but it was pretty much done by February. We've been just finished up design and configuration. We're still, there's some configuration going on now, but it's mostly on the vendor side. We've given all our requirements and data, and we're doing some confirmation, but they're really building all the configuration right now. And then we're heading into development and testing. The vendor has started development. We have not internally yet started development, but we have interface development that we have to do within the coordinating board. So that'll go through August. We're starting training very soon. We've had our training kickoff already. So we'll have a train the trainer program for our internal operations team, and then they'll train our customer support team. And then I know we'll have training sessions for institutions, and we don't know when those will be yet, but they will happen. And hopefully it'll be easy. It's all online. It'll be like shopping on Amazon, hopefully. Maybe not quite that fun and fulfilling, but it hopefully will be very intuitive and user friendly. And then we're also going to do a level of parallel processing. It won't be like 100% parallel processing, but we will be validating, making sure that whatever happens in Helms for that period of time, when we do that Encompass test system, we get the same results. So we'll have batches of things that we validate and mirror from one system to the other, just to make sure everything's working. And there's a lot to do there because of the interfaces as well. The interfaces all have to be tested, and there's probably 20 interfaces altogether. So there's a lot. And then we do plan to go live in October of 2026. So I do think it'll be later in the month, around the 25th or so, or we don't want to go live on Halloween, that's for sure. I don't want to do that. And I think the next slide is just for questions. So I'm happy to answer any questions if y'all have any. Like I said, we're very excited, and hope when you get into it and start learning more, y'all be really excited as well. I know it'll be a big change, so.
Do you have any questions for Rob?
Yes.
So right now in your presentation, you talked about going into the new system to certify the loan. Is there any discussion about bringing back the ability to do common line?
Yes, actually, yes. It was one of the things I think Tanisha was canvassing some schools to gauge their level of interest in doing common line again. Yes, they are capable of doing that. So we can do that. It's definitely not too late. And I think the vendor's been kind of waffling because apparently we used to have some weird kind of custom common line format in the coordinating board, and I don't know anything about that. So, and they didn't either. So we're not going to do that though. Do y'all use common line? I think it's 4. Is it common line 4?
Yeah.
Is that the last one?
That's I think that's what we used prior to it being shut off.
Yeah.
But I think we were one of the few schools in the state that were actually using common line.
Yeah, and with A&M, we're definitely still using common line for the TASC program, because I know that's
Yes.
the only thing we're using common line for now is TASC. So that will remain. And yes, we are very interested in having the school certified via common line if possible. But it depends, if your volume is, bigger school for sure. If your volume is low and you just want to go into campus door and certify, you can do that too. We're not going to make it required to do common line, but we would like to bring the capability back.
Do you think that it will be available in October, or it would be something? Okay.
No, I do. Yeah. I mean, it's part of campus door. They've just been asking us, do we want it or not? And I think Tanisha was a little concerned that schools might not want to do it. So I haven't talked to her about that in a while, so I'm not sure what that is, but I'll make sure I tell her that y'all are interested. Looks like more than one from the head nod. Okay.
And Robin, you alluded to this, but the Armed Services Scholarship fully embedded in this system as well.
Yeah, I really didn't talk about it since this is a loan group or loan meeting, but yeah, the TASC program, Texas Armed Services, Texas Armed Services Scholarship Program is being rebuilt as a custom application by FAAC. So it won't be accessible via Campus Store. Nothing will be like originated there. It's a scholarship program. So FAAC will build a scholarship application for elected officials to go in and appoint students, and schools can validate just like they do now, but through the Compass portal. I don't know what they're going to call it. It's not Compass Portal. It's TASP. It's a brand new application. And then should that scholarship convert to a loan because service requirements weren't met, then it will transfer into Compass as a loan. And if they come back and meet eligibility again later, then it'll go back over to the other. So it'll only stay in this custom TASP application as long as it's a scholarship. If it becomes a loan, it'll be in Compass. Yeah. Did you have a question?
I did. The training for institutions will be webinars.
I expect so. That's kind of up to Leah.
There will definitely be webinars. It's a matter of whether we do other things too. I think we'll.
I would think there's probably multiple formats,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I mean, in the past, when we onboarded our old software, we did a kind of a walkthrough, here's screen by screen, here's what to expect, and then, over time, people just got it. I think this system is gonna be set up very similarly, where there's only so many steps, and so we're gonna document what those look like and provide that in advance, and then there will be some type of support system, so that if you have issues with logging in, or if you have any questions on the screen, or you can't find a student, then there's going to be some kind of support set up to walk through that.
yeah, and our vendor has a lot of documentation too. So they'll be providing most of the training documentation for both us internally and for institutions. And I don't know if y'all have ever interacted with FAAC before, but their enterprise company is called American Education Services, AES, and they act as a servicer for many other states and private entities. I think they have something like 30 customers. So it's really nice to go into working with a vendor that has all these best practices and just a really robust methodology and very configurable system, even given that it's still written in COBOL like Helms was. It's a very robust system. And nothing against Helms, but we were their only client. So, it's not like we could leverage knowledge from other student lending organizations. And, now I feel like we're going to be able to implement a lot of best practices and get some nice efficiencies and automation for everyone.
One thing we're trying to also do when we start promoting this more is reminding institutions to go ahead and certify eligible students so that you can get the default disbursement set up in the old system, get that paid.
Yeah.
So there's no lag. I think a lot of people, tend to have their own schedules, but we're gonna really push hard, like notify, do some email campaigns, get your students to apply now so that when this blackout period or this cutoff happens, you're not in a situation where you can't do anything because it's beyond your control. But like Robin said, the timeline is set up specifically so that a majority of loans should have already been dispersed by the time this new system comes up. So it'd only be the kind of one-offs where either someone applies late or not turn in their documentation in time. So
yeah, and depending on, when they apply, we may hold it or we may try. I mean, we're not planning on converting open applications to Campus Store. It would be already dispersed, approved loans. So if the application's open, it's highly likely it would have to be redone in Campus Store. So we don't want that to happen, but that information will definitely be in all the training and communications, what those timeframes are so that you know. Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
You put it over there.
I'm such a mom. Look, I would never have found this. Thank you so much. I'd have been like, someone call me. Y'all have a good evening.
okay, we're now scheduled for an hour lunch, so we're back at 11:45.
Do you want to just push and finish? We don't have that much left on the agenda. We'll do lunch.
Yeah.
We can all have lunch after the
I'm at
meeting.
y'all's birthday, so y'all tell me.
How do you feel about that?
everyone on, they're shaking their heads.
Was it consensus?
Yeah.
Push forward?
Yeah, we're pretty close to done, so.
Okay. Okay, so the next agenda item number 13 is the FAFSA subcommittee, Heather Fountain update.
There's not really a whole lot going on there. Coordinating board is still planning on releasing the 27-28, that sounds weird, but the 27-28 application October 1. And so they're working through those updates.
Okay.
Same with paper forms. We're working on those for the summer, but there was no major updates. I think last time we mentioned the only change on the form, which was aligning with FAFSA's healthcare,
right,
premiums change they did on that. They're very little changing, so.
Very little.
So with the schools and when you use it, the test, what do you do? You just use them to determine what the students are eligible for? Okay.
Anybody else have questions for Heather? I will go on to agenda item number 14, high school district updates. Erica Ramos. Not here.
Yes.
Heather.
I'm here. I'm here. Let me pull up my notes. I actually wrote notes this time. All right, so I was able to travel to a conference in Chicago back in April. I thought it was really fun to connect. I didn't realize I was going to run into Erica at the conference in Chicago, so far from home. So it was fun to connect and just talk about the committee and all the things happening on our end of our work. It's been a good year when it comes to FAFSA completion. I think the overall consensus of counselors in our region is that it was easier to complete. That seems to be what everybody's saying, both on the student end, parent end, and counselors that are supporting those doing the work. When I reviewed our FAFSA submissions by high school for our region, not the percentages specifically, but just completions, they're higher. I mean, every school I look at, everybody seems to be higher as far as number of FAFSAs being completed. I will say that we're also reporting that there's less TASFAs being completed with the changes that happened last year. I think that the greatest challenge that we're still facing, it just happened to me this week, is those students who their social seems to be tied to an account already and then trying to regain access to that. I worked with a student just this week who is 17 years old. He does not have a valid government ID yet. And his account was one of those that was already, I mean, it's somebody somewhere entered, I guess, his social. And so he's been trying to gain access for months on his own, didn't know what he was doing, finally came in and we called together and found out that it sounds like he's going to be able to use his social security card, which he does have, to regain access. I still don't know what that's going to look like. I haven't heard back from him yet. I told him to check back on Thursday, so that's today, to see what he could do. So just waiting to hear back to see what that looks like for students who don't have a government ID to verify that they are who they say they are. So that'll be interesting. A fun little celebration. My campus alone, we had 4 students selected for the Texas Leadership Scholars. So that was awesome. It wasn't something prior to this committee that I was even aware of or promoted. So I think my work now is to share that good news with everybody else in our region, so that more students are applying for it. But super excited that we had 4 of our students selected. I do have some questions for the committee from counselors as we do the work on our end on the ISD side. So there are counselors who need clarification regarding the acceptance and validity of the McKinney-Vento homeless youth determination that is provided by district liaisons. And so for our financial aid officials in here, can you confirm how your institution handles this documentation under the current FAFSA simplification guidance? I think what we have found is that we have students who were already determined as qualifying and in their second or third year are still being asked for documentation. For some of those cases, it's very sensitive information that they're having to redisclose, like the loss of parents. And so is the prior year determination sufficient for verification for all of the years? And under what circumstances would the financial aid offices require students to resubmit documentation? So that's a question I have for our financial aid practitioners here in the room. And for the continuing students, is that documentation they provide the initial year retained on file across all award years? So I'll start with that question first.
I think it's gonna really be determined by institution, what their institutional policy is for it. Most schools will want students to verify it every year. Especially if they're transfer students, they'll want them to re-verify that information every year. And if they're selected, most definitely they'll have to re-verify. But I think it just depends on the institution and what their institutional policy is.
Okay, Kelly has her hand up.
Yeah, I'll jump on. This is Kelly from Amarillo College. I work closely with Sandra, and just from our perspective, I think a couple of years ago, the Department of Education said you don't have to re-verify every year. So if we have a student who has already turned in their letter to us, we don't re-verify every year unless there's conflicting information. I think that's a caveat, is if you have conflicting information that says their situation has changed or something is different, then you would have to re-verify. But once we have the letter, they're good to go here, unless we have conflicting information.
And I'll say that's what we do as well. I think who may be getting caught in our process of being asked to provide additional documentation are transfer students, because we wouldn't have anything on file for them. Whereas whatever school that they were coming from may have that documentation. So we may automatically be asking them for additional for that initial determination, so that we have something on file. But for our students that start with us and continue with us, we get it once and they're good the rest of the time.
And I also, just to add to that, I think it has something to do with how the students are completing the FAFSA each year. So one year they may indicate that they were homeless or they're under McKinney-Vento. In another year, they may say they want to exclude their parental information. And that comes into question as to what we need to do to verify that student's information.
Okay. Well, that makes perfect sense.
And some schools are just gonna request it regardless because we don't trust the department to change rules. I mean, because like she said, the department did give us, the leeway to say that we didn't have to request the information, but some schools are just really, sensitive about not having the documentation each year, so they will request it.
Okay.
Each year.
Fair enough, thank you. And then as I sat here reflecting about the trellis presentation and everything that she shared, there's another question that came up from counselors that work with some of our highest achieving students in Texas. I presented this question earlier in the year to the coordinating board, but it's regarding the highest ranking graduate. And when we looked at it, we were just looking at, we weren't looking at the Texas Administrative Code, I think is what we weren't looking at, which says something, I wouldn't say it conflicts with the section 54.301 that discusses the highest ranking graduate, but it specifies about residency status. And so I think the question comes that counselors are trying to navigate and figure out as they support these students who are graduating as valedictorians of their classes. Our experience has been so far that those who are classified as non-residents aren't eligible for the highest ranking waiver. How are institutions, or for our practitioners that are here, applying that valedictorian waiver if a student is classified as non-resident? And so I think the consensus we're getting across the board from anybody I've spoken with is that they're not qualifying. Is there guidance from the coordinating board to ensure consistent implementation across institutions? Because I only have information from the institutions we reached out to, is their guidance for all institutions. Is the exemption viewed strictly as a tuition benefit tied to residency status? Or is it merit-based, a merit-based award that institutions can administer independently of resident status? And I think finally, if the residency classification limits direct application of the exemption, what alternative institutional aid or state aid are you guys able to offer to ensure those students receive meaningful recognition for that achievement of graduating valedictorian? I think ultimately our goal as counselors, as we're advising students, we want to give them accurate information. We want to give it consistently and we want to be equitable with them, right? Especially for those students who are achieving at the highest level of their graduating classes. So any guidance or information you guys can provide would be great.
Well, I can certainly speak to the coordinating board portions of your question. I think I'm going to summarize a little bit, which was you were basically asking, is there guidance from the coordinating board about awarding the highest ranking graduate exemption and about residency status? And the short answer to that question is no. There's a reason for that, though, which is that the exemptions and waivers, many folks who have called me about one or the other, we have about 50 of them, know this, that the coordinating board's authority is pretty limited on those different items. There are some of them that exist out there where the coordinating board is given rulemaking authority, and those are the ones you're going to see in the Texas Administrative Codes, like the Good Neighbor Program, the firefighter one, the paramedic one. And then there's quite a number that we are not given the authority to adopt rules on them. And by extension, we are not, when I say we aren't authorized to adopt rules, I also mean we are not authorized to interpret that statute for institutions at all. So like if you, and many of you have called me at one time or another with a question about, hey, what does this mean? What does this statute mean? And very often my answer is, you're going to have to talk to your institutional counsel, your lawyers about how to apply this statute. And the highest ranking graduate is one of those. So as far as how institutions determine eligibility and whether or not to award that exemption, because my recollection is that that one is an optional. It's at the discretion of the institution how they want to apply that. And the institution is going to need to understand those statutory requirements with their counsel, because the coordinating board cannot interpret that statute. What I can say is what you were alluding to about lawful presence with exemptions and waivers, that restriction, again, extends only as far as our authority to do rules on exemptions and waivers. And so you'll see in that rule, it says, an exemption and waiver offered under this chapter, subchapter, whatever, the student must be lawfully present. That's the extent to which we're able to interpret those statutes as it relates to residency. How institutions are going to apply all of this is ultimately going to be their decision when they're making eligibility determinations. So the answer is going to be, it depends. When you go to different institutions, they are going to do this differently. Some institutions are going to choose not to do it at all because it is a may. They are not obligated to offer that exemption. But that's the extent to which we can really communicate about what does that statute mean and what does it entail for this student. So it's something that'll have to get worked out with the institution, and the institution is going to have to talk internally about how that statute relates to this or that student's circumstances.
Which is interesting you say that, because the institutions we've spoken to point directly back to the coordinating board as far as who's providing their guidance. So it's like, that's why, I guess that's why we're asking, right? Because we're trying to understand, like, where is it coming from? Is it the institution where they're deciding the residency status and then that's dictating whether they award it, or?
I freely acknowledge that this is a new thing. It's new to all of us. This is a big change that hit in a very weird time of the year for everybody, and we're all navigating this. What I can tell you is we only influence how to interpret statutes about exemptions and waivers where we have authority to interpret them. And those are the ones that you'll see in Chapter 13, Subchapter P of the Administrative Code. There's like 15 of them. And that's the box. The restriction related to lawful presence is part of that box. How institutions choose to interpret the rest of this in the context of everything that's happened is more or less an institutional decision from our perspective.
So I'm just curious, like, what are institutions, how are you helping support those students who might fall under that specific circumstance?
I don't think we've come across that, honestly. But what I will say that in the event that we did come across something like that, my first thought would be to exclude eligibility for auditing purposes. Now, if there were institutional funds that we could award those students, then by all means, that would be the route that we would take. But that would be the limit to where I would actually do anything.
I think our institution has chosen to use institutional merit scholarships to replace them with. It doesn't give the students a full, it would give them a full tuition waiver. It wouldn't give them a fee waiver, but it would give them a full tuition waiver. But of course, it's case by case, no. I think the unfortunate part is that the students don't really know that they have the ability to challenge an institution, to honor it in some way or another. And I think that might be why a lot of students don't, push forward through it. And a lot of counselors don't know that they need to contact their financial aid offices to see if there's something that they can offer if they want these pool of students. And who wouldn't want them? I mean, they're the top of their classes. Those are the students that we really want. So we as institutions should try to make some kind of concession to be able to have those students at our institutions.
So that's something we as counselors can do then, is to educate them on those processes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Sandra?
I don't have any questions, but something that I will mention is this, as Chris mentioned, this is new for a lot of schools. And there is sometimes a misunderstanding that all exemptions require in-state residency. So I think if they're running into a school that's saying no, it's because they truly believe that is the correct answer. And so the other thing that I would throw in there is at your public schools, a lot of times the exemptions and residency aren't done through financial aid. So you probably want to reach out to admissions counselors too, so that they can put you in touch with the appropriate people that can get a clear, correct answer.
It's a really good point, Beth. I think something to keep in mind, at least how I've kind of keep this in my head between exemptions and waivers, because they do operate differently for different students, is like a waiver is a very narrow case, right? That's only ever taking a non-resident tuition, a student with non-resident tuition down to resident tuition. That's the only use of a waiver. So an exemption just means we're reducing your tuition and fees by some amount. Sometimes it's all the way down to zero, and sometimes it's like $500 and whatever. There's a whole bunch of different versions of it. And so kind of in that way, like if you think about it, like all waivers are a type of exemption, right? They are, but exemption can be non-residents. Like the Good Neighbor program is a great example, which I say that because I'm getting ahead of you, but like we're gonna announce that in the next couple of days. But the Good Neighbor, those are all non-residents, right? They're citizens of Brazil and Honduras, and those students go from non-resident tuition down to zero, right? And so that's a huge exemption. Even though those are non-residents, we do still consider those exemptions. So it's a useful kind of thinking about it. And I think I'll remind myself to send this to you, but there is a really great resource that we updated earlier this year, as a matter of fact, when we did some of this rulemaking and everything, that has all of the exemptions and waivers listed on it. It's our exemption and waiver summary document. And it is a chart that shows what is everything, what do we consider it? Is it an exemption? Is it a waiver? Is it somewhere in between? And then are they optional? Are they mandatory? And again, there's some gradient between there, because sometimes they're mandatory if there's funding, but they're not mandatory if there's not funding. And there's a whole bunch of kind of edge cases, but there's a chart that exists on the coordinating board website that has like all 50 of them and all of the rules and statutes that they link to, which is a really handy resource, I think, when you're looking at students, because like I said, there's like 50, 60 of these things. Oftentimes there are opportunities available for students that they are just not aware of, because that's a lot to hold in your head, right? So that resource is, it's like, it's 2 pages or something. So it's not like,
It's 4.
oh, is it 4?
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well, and it links out to all these statutes and rules so that you can kind of have it all in one place. And that might help, help advise students about what options might be available to them.
That would be really helpful. I was gonna say, because 16, 17-year-olds aren't gonna be looking for that. So,
Absolutely not. And nor would I expect them to. And trying to interpret some of these statutes that are 50 years old, like, good luck. Some of them are like, I don't know what that means. But we will certainly share that out, and I'll share it out with the whole group, actually, because some of y'all are veterans of the coordinating board website and probably found it, but we did update it about 6 months ago or something. So send that out to the whole group so that that's something that you have available to you and that you can think about. It's a useful document because I love it because it's like useful in your context, but also it's a compliance document for some of these folks, like to make sure that they're reporting stuff to us correctly. So it works in all cases. So we'll send that out.
I will likely add, because you probably know this, but students may have a disconnect. State exemptions and waivers are only for state institutions. So if they're looking at a private school, it's not. So just helping educate students, because 9 times out, we get several that, well, I have this waiver. Yeah, I understand, but that's not for us. So.
Or they want to go to proprietary or somewhere else where it's, I know that's technically private, but like an actual for-profit, and sometimes that's confusing. But yeah, this chart Chris will send out, it's been around for many years. We try and keep it maintained, but it's one of the things I do when I go out into the field is I constantly talk about being familiar with these opportunities, because you may be meeting with a student, has nothing to do with federal aid, and they're like, oh, I'm actually deaf. And you're like, oh, well, they don't know that there's a deaf and blind waiver. I'm on a deaf support group because my son is hard of hearing. And just the other day, they're like, did you know in Texas you can go to college at a public school for free? And people are going nuts because nobody knows that opportunity is out there. So as a kind of a liaison between either high schoolers or these college kiddos and this information, like knowing where to find stuff is one of the things that I try and always tell people, like, know what's out there so that you can help these people in these certain situations. So
I'm glad you shared that, because I didn't know that. And so I think that just alludes, right? So it's the high school people doing the work, trying to educate these kids on the opportunities that are out there for them that are going to help them not be in debt and be able to earn those degrees. You can't put a price tag on that for us as counselors. So
You can't, and especially, as we've proliferated so many different ways where the lines between K-12 and higher ed get fuzzier and fuzzier with dual credit and dual enrollment and all these other structures, like that work does start earlier. And, for some students, it's even as early as, knowing that if I graduate early, that there's this Texas First program I can take advantage of. I can maybe take advantage of the FAAC program and get those credits covered at no cost. There's lots of options out there. And it's not fair because there's plenty going on in K-12 already, but like the idea that there's all this wealth of information. So, I think finding ways, and we'll continue. That's what this committee is for, right? Is to be able to find ways to filter information out of the coordinating board and out of institutions and everywhere else that's usable for everybody, all the way, into the K-12 world where our students are coming from. And increasingly 9th or 10th grade, they're already starting to think about their plan for higher ed, if not already taking credit hours. So I know. I'm thinking about me at 14. And anyway.
it's like really underutilized. I feel very passionate about it, is the foster care program, because foster care youth tends to travel around and they're bounced from house to house, and they just have a very high percentage of like not attending college or dropping out. I've known quite a few kiddos down there in the foster care system, like, you do know you can go to college for free, and they just don't know, like, who would be sharing this with them? And so as a high school counselor, that one I know y'all are aware of, but it's like getting into the classrooms, because a lot of them are not gonna self-identify, or they don't want people to know, because it's hard for them, you know, so, and even those where they're adopted out of foster care, they might not know that they're eligible, because they're like, oh, well, I'm not a foster care kiddo anymore. So I keep using the word kiddo, but person. So just knowing all the ones that exist out there. When I first saw the list, when I came up, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many different programs that fit different people's either parents' lifestyle or career choices or circumstances. And the Texas has a huge interest in helping people that are in service and do things like in rural communities and things like that, so.
And I don't think we do a good job. I mean, I'll just say as a counselor, right, until it comes across our desk like this highest ranking graduate, right? Till it happens to us is when we're like starting to seek that information. So having that on the front end is gonna be great. I'll make sure I'm sharing it with our region people so that they're pushing it out as well to all of our students.
That's true.
Or
And
counselors.
I think reinforcing Melissa's point, especially on these tuition exemptions and all these options that have kind of blossomed in the last, decade, is it really, a lot of it is tied to public institutions. The heartbreaking one, to Leah's point, I did had a student who was foster care youth, reached out to me and said, I can't convince my school to give me this exemption. And I'm looking and I said, well, where do you go to school? And it was a private school. And it's just like, like that one, that one felt like one we could have prevented, that this student was confident, enrolled in a private school, thinking I'm going to be covered. And then everybody's hands are tied, right? I mean, fortunately, I think they were able to work it out with other kinds of aid, but that's not always a guarantee. And I think to your point, like, I don't know whether the student went to school for high school or anything, but the idea that like that information reaching that student at the right time could make a huge difference, right? I mean, that's really the story. So we're very interested, and I think that's one of the things we genuinely appreciate about this committee, and we want to do more of in this committee, is find ways of getting that information to the person who ultimately is sitting in front of a student and saying, here are your options, and here's where you can take your path. So I welcome, any kind of ways that we can be helpful in that way. We certainly do our best.
Thank you.
Along those lines, counselors, man, more power to you, at any level, because I've worked with a lot of counselors, and the amount of piles of work that they have is insane. Anyway, I'm somebody who looks through the weeds of those My Texas Future newsletters or the THECB, information. And I think that targeted approaches for marketing these kinds of items in those would be a start. It really was upsetting to hear that institutions think that higher ed, the Financial Aid Advisory Committee or the THECB is supposed to be, who's doing what information, and the fact that, THECB thinks it's the institutions and the institutions think it's the other, and the communication is a problem. So we need to fix that somehow. I don't know how that's done, but it appears that it's more in the THECB's court to be more clear with these things that it can offer, because obviously people on the ground level don't know about it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's good feedback, and I agree. And I think one of the things that we are always trying to grapple with here is there's a lot of state aid programs. I mean, like I said, there's 20 programs and all these exemptions and waivers and various tuition things, and trying to, yes, we want to push out as much information as possible, but we also don't want to flood the zone, and make sure that the truly like the highest priority things, the things that are going to be, critical and very available for students, are lost in that shuffle. So it is not I wish if the answer was truly always just more communication, I think I would be game for that. And in many ways, I would welcome that universe because I can do more. I can work more hours. I can hire more people. I can do those things. But it's like at the same time, I'm trying to think what are the things you need and when do you need them and how do we piece that together and what questions can I answer and what questions can't I answer? And I think that's where we try to rely on this group to really provide us, from my perspective as a member of this committee, hearing the things that aren't working and hearing the things that are working and how can I take stuff that's not working over here and do it differently so that it does work or that it can be more clear. We've taken advice. Like a great example is with FAST over these first few years of FAST. Like everybody knows that FAST was a quick launch and everybody was confused. And in many ways, those of you who are the 2-year institutions, some of you are still confused by FAST, and I hear you. But it's I think we over time taken stock of things that we're doing over here that are working, that everybody understands, that are clear, and how can I take the best of that and move it into the stuff that's not clear. But it is, it is a process. So I welcome it. I hope, sometimes it's tough when we're all in Zoom together and we're trying to have a joint conversation at this group, but I'm really enjoying getting to look around and see all these people in the room. And next year, I hope that there's a few more. But it's great to be able to go, deep on some of these topics where we're not giving the information that's needed or it's not getting there when it needs to, so that we can make those improvements within the constraints that we have.
Well, I'll tell you as a counselor, teaching students to self-advocate, right, is a big thing. And what I just heard is self-advocate. If an institution says no, keep trying to seek the support that you need. So we work really hard to try to do that, to teach them to self-advocate. And on the FAST program from the ISD side, I'll tell you, from a campus that paid for dual credit for our students, we are so grateful because it saved us a lot, and really just encouraging those students who qualified to participate in some dual credit. And I mean, there's some pathways now for our local institution through Amarillo College, for them to continue on to complete an associate's degree, if they've met certain requirements. And so we're really going to try to amp up the usage of that. So thank you guys.
Anybody else have any questions for Sandra?
I will just say thank you for bringing those things forward. It is really helpful to just kind of hear some of the things that you're grappling with students. It kind of allows me personally to kind of take that back and just kind of check and make sure that those, kind of pathways that we have clear communication on our end too. If, that's something that students are, kind of going out to our web pages and looking for and things like that. It's helpful for me to kind of have some insights into where they're getting hung up or, if it needs to be more clear.
I was thinking the same thing about adding exemptions and waivers to FAFSA nights and days and presentations for our students, because that's something we rarely even mention in FAFSA presentations, is about the waivers and exemptions. To be honest, we just sometimes forget about, and we're expecting our students to go out and find that information themselves. But that'd be a great opportunity to get, at least when we're going to schools and visits and counselors, to mention it to them about those waivers and exemptions. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if nobody else has anything, thanks, Sandra, for bringing this stuff up and having a good discussion.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to agenda item number 15. Update for Office of Student Financial Aid Programs. Leah?
That would be me. Luckily, we've covered 95% of everything, so I'll just kind of fill in the holes on things. Robin came in, did a great presentation on SLMS, so we are looking at how we're going to get institutions up to speed on the new system, and creating resources along with webinars and things like that. So that we're in the beginning stages of getting all of that prepped. But we're also trying to figure out how to get borrowers I mean, they're gonna be going through a huge transition too, because they're used to going to a certain system and now they're gonna be moved over to another one. So trying to figure out what that's gonna look like and how do we reach those people and how do we promote this new software? So all those things are happening behind the scenes, so more to come on that training. And then we're looking at a summer training series, but we don't have any details yet. There's a lot of things happening at the coordinating board with, different movements and things. So more to come on training, but we're hopeful that at a minimum, especially after this meeting, like what kind of communications or what kind of clarifications could we send out regarding rule changes? And the biggest one obviously is our program guidelines. That's where a lot of institutions wait to hear, how have the programs evolved from either the session, rule changes, operational changes, deadline dates, things like that. And so I think I mentioned this last time, but we had a huge initiative. We're combining all the program guidelines into one resource document. I think that it's turning out very nicely, but what was a very big challenge is when you consolidate how many programs?
It was
10 plus
10.
programs into one that have very similar yet different little line items. You have to think that out from a very circular mindset so that institutions or even high school counselors, they don't miss information. So it has been quite the activity. We're getting closer and we do anticipate releasing those soon, but the major things that institutions need to know about are published at this point, sans one item, which are the Texas grant final allocations. Those are coming, but aside from that, all the other final allocations are posted. All of the award amounts are posted. All of the rules are posted. So the things that you need to administer these programs should be accessible. What's not is the program guidelines, which we all know are kind of timeline wise, are usually after you've packaged anyway, but it's a good way to circle back and make sure that you understand how the rules have been. So those are coming, I promise you. Chris and I look at them daily and we're trying to get them into a good, nice digestible document so that you'll have that.
Well, I'll add on that just for a second, which is one thing we're really excited about getting these into one document is that we really hope to publish these earlier in the future. And I think one of the hangups we've had historically is trying to take stock of everything that's changed in the last year, session, rules, whatever, and then like 13 of these documents are all being generated and having to be reviewed and it was proving to be really slowing us down. And yes, we're a little slower this year because that consolidation process has taken a while, but we're hoping that in future years, we're going to be able to push them out much earlier to you all so that you can, make use of them. And so that's, something we're really excited about on that front in terms of trying to improve our responsiveness to what y'all have told us and what we think would be helpful. So
Yes, so more to come. We will be getting that out. And then a few things that have come out just to make people aware, make sure you know that we publish these on our website. We did publish the educational aid final allocation, so those are available if you participate in that program. Financial aid database is open for cycle 2. Please make sure you're submitting your FAACs.
yes, please. And I've had a bug in my ear from our data folks, which is there was a new field added in
Yes, I was gonna add.
in this FAD on the Texas Leadership Research Scholars, so the grad school version of the Texas Leadership Scholars. That was a new field added, and I think on the first day, all of our early submitters sent their FADs in, and half of them bounced back because they had to put that new field in. So it made I'm not a tech person, but it did things that were bad. And so I've been asked to, in any time I speak publicly with people who touch FADs, to make sure that new field is in there before you submit so that we're, getting to a happy place on FADs quicker.
Yeah, and the deadline for the initial file submission is June 10th, which is a few more days. So, and then the validation deadline is July 15th. So between getting your file in and working with the team that helps with FAADs. I mean, that's the whole point of cycle 2. We do use that data for different initiatives and to assess things. So the timelier you can do it, the better. But that is open. And like Chris said, if you go to the front page of the financial aid database manual, we have started publishing all the updates and flagging those within the manual so that they're crystal clear on what changed. So at any point, if you have questions, you can reach out so you can get help with your FAADs processing. We also released a few weeks ago the rule changes that Chris talked about today. We summarized those and put them online so that you can easily see which chapters, what programs, which specific rules were updated, and they're all hyperlinked directly to the code. So we try and take the guesswork out of it, and so you don't have to filter through all the different administrative, proposed rules and adopted rules. It gets very complicated. So that's available on our website. Again, it goes through the recent changes, and then you'll want to keep an eye out for any proposed changes coming through. And those are sent out on our listserv. Let's see. I already mentioned this earlier, but as a reminder on both your loan programs and now specifically for armed services, getting people certified and getting them in the system. We did send something out letting people know, like, if you can determine eligibility now that the spring term has ended, the sooner the better. That way that we can get them in the system and dispersed. And then let's see, all the final allocation. So we already talked about SLMS. A couple quick updates. Net price calculator. We've had people reaching out about net price. The Department of Education has not released their new template yet. It's kind of in the range still of when they do that. We don't know if they will or not. It's kind of mysterious kind of how they're operating at this point and whether or not they're going to do that. But we are looking at a contingency in the event they don't release a template. But because we're still in our typical window for the year, you did not miss anything. We just haven't released it yet. And the net price calculator will always default to whatever you've uploaded into it. So we should still be remaining in compliance, but just keep an eye out for that. We'll send out something soon once net price calculator kind of rollover begins. And then you said something about Good Neighbor program. The selection should be going out in the next few days. We have finalized the selections and we'll be notifying the reporting official that nominated the students from your institution if you're participating in it. So keep an eye out for that. And we do send a formal memo out to the directors of financial aid because Good Neighbor is a lot of time in your international office. And so that disconnect, sometimes like you didn't even know that the selections happened. And so we notify directors as well. So it could be as soon as today, but I don't know.
We'll see.
We need to talk to Chris about it. Let's see. Authority to transfer deadline is quickly approaching. It's June 15th, the day before my birthday. Give me a shout out. So the way that you do authority to transfer, you do have to go into GAP to do that if you're going to request it. Keep in mind there's certain limitations and you have to figure out which programs you're transferring, but the operations team can help you if you have any questions and you're trying to get that done. But once that deadline passes, then you have to wait till next year. Yes. Okay. That's it. That's all I got, I think.
Yeah, just a couple other things to expect. I think I alluded to this earlier, but we'll be publishing fiscal 27, which does feel weird to say out loud. FAST projections, which will start for the fall semester. We'll be publishing those by the end of the month, and it'll function very much the same way that our allocation processes work, where we'll send out, here's the data that we're using to do the calculation, make sure on your end that our data and your data say the same thing, and then we'll publish like a final version in July. What that'll look like is really straightforward. It'll just say, Austin Community College, fall, here's the hours that we pulled from your prior year, times the new tuition rate, which is $60.10 per credit hour. this much money. Spring, summer, and it'll do that across line, and that's it. And so really what we're doing is, and that is assuming that there are no issues with the data, that's the amount you'll get paid on October 15th for the fall, March 15th for the spring, June 15th for the summer. No more trying to work out flex terms and summer 1 and summer 2 and summer 3. And I think there's like 14 different terms now that are being paid out in FAST. We are going to 3 payments a year. We'll combine the terms for you. We'll tell you how we did it. And then here's the math and let you check our work. And then that will be the schedule for FAST for the year. The only thing that will happen kind of mid-year will be we always do the true-up process kind of in the middle of the year. We would look back and make sure, that those students were actually showed up in the TEA attendance data as eligible. So there may be some corrections mid-year. We'll try to apply those to your March payment. But no more of this endless back and forth for 75 schools. We're really excited about the idea of everybody getting paid exactly what they know they're being paid on the day they expect it. It's a new day. So really excited about that. And believe that's it. Oh, yes, one other thing. For those of you at our 4-year institution or our public 4 years and HRIs, I have received many questions about Texas Grant, specifically about the requirement of the guarantee for TEOG students, pathway students coming in, and how are we going to know who those students are if we're going to guarantee them? We are going to try, and I'm saying try because I am not a technical guy and I don't know if it'll actually work. We're going to try to load the Cycle 2 data into the award history tool that we provide once it's ready. And you all, hopefully, if that works, will be able to use that to help you identify those TEOG pathway students. Anybody who got TEOG more than just this current year will already show up in the award history tool. It's only the folks who don't, the folks who won't show up in the award history tool right now are the folks who are getting their first TEOG this year because they wouldn't be in a FAD yet. So we're going to use the Cycle 2 data, hopefully load that into the award history tool, hopefully not break the award history tool in the process. And if that's the case, then that'll be a helpful tool that we hope we'll do. And that's really we know this is an issue that y'all are going to face, especially since we're operating under the assumption that this requirement will remain in place going forward. And we are working on ways that we can enhance the award history tool and our data collection to hopefully get that information to you earlier, because we know that does affect students' enrollment admissions decisions, knowing, is that aid going to be there for me? I will mention when the Texas Grant final allocations go out very soon, those allocations will have 2 parts to them for the first time. We're gonna send out a general allocation, which will be the big pot of money, and then there will be a TEOG pathway pot of money that is separate. It'll also be a separate account in the GAP, so you'll be able to draw down separately for those 2. And the reason why that is those TEOG dollars are restricted. They can only be used for initial year Texas grants for those TEOG pathway students. So to make the accounting and compliance easier for y'all and to make accounting and compliance easier for us, we decided let's just split up the allocations, let's split up the accounts so that everybody knows what they're pulling from. I will also mention, I have this list of things that I'm supposed to say, and anytime I'm in front of an audience of people who can use it. And one of them is, y'all who are the Texas Grant veterans know that the Texas Grant eligibility process is kind of a mess. It's really complicated. One thing I want to point out is that the TEOG pathway is special. It doesn't have a time restriction on it. So many of the Texas Grant for the high school pathway, it says they had to have graduated high school within the last 16 months. Or the associate degree pathway, they had to have gotten their associate degree in the last 12 months, 16 months, I don't know, one of those. TEOG pathway doesn't have that restriction. So you may have some juniors and seniors who didn't get a Texas Grant their first year at your institution after they transferred. They may still be eligible this year, and you can use these restricted funds for those students. So go find them. There should be plenty of money to get all your TEOG pathway students covered. That we know this is a guarantee, that the rule says you have to do it. We did change the allocations and got a lot of extra funding from the legislature specifically to let you be able to go find those students and get them Texas grants. So happy hunting. But we'll also, like I said, do expect to receive 2 numbers with your final allocation, which is your restricted number and then your unrestricted number. And there will be 2 accounts in GAP. And if you have any questions about how to get that set up, feel free to reach out to me, and I will be putting you in touch with the folks who can tell you how that will all work out, because I don't personally know. But we have great people on GAP. Many of you probably know Alex and his team. They'll be hard at work helping make sure you all get those funds. So I think that is actually all I had to say. But like I said, I have this list of things that I always want to cover anytime I get to talk in front of a group of people. So did you have anything else?
No. Let's eat.
Yeah. Any other questions, coordinating board related questions for us before we? No. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 16, bridging the gaps. Anybody have any goals, achievements, progress, or solutions?
I don't have any of that, but I wanted to, let's say, I'm the president who's been on the committee since 2021. And this is my last meeting, that I will miss you all. And I appreciate the experience. I've learned a lot being on the committee. Yeah, so I will see you on another committee. That's all.
And as a reminder, you can be renominated
Yes.
for future reference.
You can volunteer to be chair again.
I actually didn't volunteer, I was volunteering.
We're getting to that part. We're getting to that part of the meeting.
Yeah.
I should mention one other thing. I wanted to say a thank you to the group. I feel like, I don't know if this was maybe 3 meetings ago, you all started raising concerns about these ghost students, identity theft, AI, whatever. You've seen it too with these social security numbers getting used. And I got to tell you, we were ahead of the feds on this one. I mean, y'all were raising this, and I started asking questions about it, and everyone was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And all of a sudden now, Ed is putting out guidance every other day about it. And what all this is to say, as you all come to grapple with this, as your vendors come to grapple with this, if there are best practices, that's a conversation I want to continue to have with this group, because I think this is not going away anytime soon, no matter how many tools we put in place on FAFSA or whatever. And the agency is very much aware of it. And we're looking at it through obviously the financial aid side, but we have Apply Texas as well. And so we are very interested in what you all are unearthing, what solutions you are finding that are working. I know Ed put out a big best practices for institutions that was talking about all the different stuff around the country that people are doing to try to get ahead of this, putting people on Zoom calls to sign things and taking pictures of driver's licenses and all kinds of whatever. As you all continue to, encounter issues or find solutions, we want to know about them. Obviously we meet pretty infrequently with this group, so do not hesitate to fire an email to me on that subject. That is something we're very interested in helping with, especially since we're kind of looking out as an agency across several different kind of functional areas that are being impacted by this, admissions, financial aid. Please reach out. But I really wanted to just thank you, because I had a moment of pride when I was like, oh, look at all this Ed guidance, and my agency is asking all these questions, and I'm like, oh yeah, we actually talked about that first. So that started here. So thank you all for that. I think that was one of y'all.
Yeah. We received over 10,000 within the last 3 weeks.
Wow.
Oh, great.
Wow.
They're all coming from the Apply Texas platform.
Oh, yeah, they are. We're getting some.
Yeah.
And they're not giving any support at all.
Yeah. We're aware of it. I think that they're trying to grapple with what's possible in the near term, and trying to understand what tools are in the tool belt, so to speak, to kind of grapple this, because this came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's we don't. I feel like one side of this fight is using AI really well. And the other side is still figuring out how to use AI really well to fight it.
These old people.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you call on me? I couldn't quite hear. Okay.
Your hands up.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the coordinating board. You all have been incredible. working with us on, we have so many rapid changes at the federal and state level, and some of them are just too complicated to even go into, but you all have been great about working with us, schools and counselors, and we just really appreciate it. So I wanted to mention that.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
I'd say probably one of the biggest goals is for all of us to implement OB3. And then hopefully at the September month meeting, we can all say it's an achievement that we got it implemented.
We all successfully adjusted loads.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
I also just wanted to jump into that with thanking the coordinating board for all that you do, and especially this committee. I watched that fraud thing come up in all the notifications and communication that comes out to us, and yeah, it was really meaningful, along with other things that I've witnessed on this committee. The change is real, the voices are being heard, and it's a pleasure to be on it and be a part of it.
Is there anything else? If not,
Dun, dun, dun.
then we'll move on to agenda item number 17. Future meetings, reminders, and topics, recommendations. So the first thing is that we will have our next meeting, September 10th. It will be virtual. The next thing is that we do need to select a vice chair. With Tanya taking over my position next meeting and Cecilia rolling off.
No, I will meet you.
Is there anybody that'd like to volunteer or nominate somebody to be the new vice chair? Or everybody say anything at once?
Not on this meeting? I thought it was in the September meeting. I can't keep them straight. Don't listen to me.
No, because the new chair takes over in September.
Oh, okay. We probably should have planted that seed a little while ago, so surprise, who wants to be vice chair?
I think
you mentioned it at the beginning.
Here, I was like,
I did it 3 hours ago. They had 3 hours to think about it.
you can volunteer.
All right, Scott is gonna close his eyes and point.
It's not scary. I mean, you just work with me and I do all of it, so.
Not everybody sign up at once.
And if you like the committee, this guarantees that you'll be on it longer. Assuming the committee continues, you get it for another 3 years. You get to be the vice chair, the chair, and the past chair. Feel the excitement. Look, we're all looking at the screen.
The vice chair is gonna be on the screen.
Vice president or something?
A lot of my favorite family.
I'm looking down the aisle here. Heather's falling off, so she can't take it. Although, if Heather was nominated now, does she stay on?
She would.
Just throwing that out there.
She would be
That's
extended.
what I was doing. I became vice chair in my last year. That's why I was on so long.
Yeah, it renews you for another 3 years.
Sit here all day.
I'll volunteer.
Oh.
Thank you.
I'll work with you and I do all the
Peer
work.
pressure. Peer pressure really works. It really works.
Y'all put it on the newbie.
I know. It's okay.
Well,
I'm
thank you.
enjoying myself.
Thank you.
So.
We have to vote since she's the only one.
Yeah, well, I think we have to let are we confirming that nobody else wants to run before we decide if this is an election? I'm looking forward to some aggressive campaign.
Yeah.
Election year.
I see blank stares.
I see blank stares. I see no hands up. I think you won.
Okay.
100% of the vote.
Happy to do it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We get a cookie. And a donut and a brownie.
And there's no more activity report, so you don't have to worry about that.
And then the final agenda item, my last thing as chair. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Okay,
We adjourn.
Sandra, second?
I'll second.
Okay, then we are adjourned.
Thank
you,
you,
everybody.
Good to see you. See you in September.
Bye,
Thank you guys
everybody.
so much. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Y'all, now please have some food.
Please have some food.
It's been sitting out for a while. So.
No, it's right.
I'm dead, like.